Artificially.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was another one. I'll make sure you drink the water. You don't have, margarita or something in there. It's water, it's spicy water.
You say distilled?
Yeah, it's just steel.
Russian, it's Russian. Open that can and pour in a couple shots of Jack.
Yeah.
You're all set.
Yeah, it's Russian water. Russian water. Baked from potatoes? Yeah. Deep.
She's in Fort Collins, so she'll be attending. She's already been sworn in.
She'll be zooming, I think is what she said. Oh,
That is the plan.
We died one.
And,
her name is Laura. Read Carino. Her name is my love. Well, this was upside down with people, so that was the only thing I found.
See that song?
Who?
We got, Leslie, whoever that is.
Yeah, I saw Leslie.
And then iPhone.
There's Barb.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good.
I see him.
Stephanie or Michael.
I don't count on Michael's name.
Oh, he's not.
Baseball.
Coming at all.
He's got that baseball thing, right?
He said he's gonna try to hop in when he can, but I think he's gonna be pretty well tied up at his son's baseball game. Last one of the season, so he, not gonna be here today. And it's 5:30.
5:30, so let's call the meeting to order. It's 5:30 PM on May 13th. Let's do roll call, please.
Julie Fall.
Christopher Webb.
Robin Kissel. Stephanie, are you out there? We're not seeing you currently. And Michael, are you out there?
Michael will not be attending today.
Okay, I knew he had a sport event to go to, but
We do have a quorum, so we can
Oh,
proceed.
Stephanie just entered.
thank you.
There's Stephanie.
Appreciate that. Okay, so we have 4 of the 5 current board members present. Anybody have a conflict of interest?
No.
Based on the
No.
agenda?
I said no. Can you guys not hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now, Stephanie. And you've been counted as being here. Can you hear us okay?
There's
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine.
Jim and Lynn and.
Excellent. So we're on the opening ceremonies. We've done roll call and the conflict of interest. Now we're going to general public input. This is limited to 20 minutes. It's 5 minutes per speaker. If you are interested in speaking, please state your name and address before speaking. In the event that an individual or organization would like an item on the agenda for the board's consideration, please contact the staff the Thursday before the meeting. And I will ask for public comments on specific items that appear on the agenda after the board discussion, the staff input, and before the board action. In general, response to questions regarding the agenda item can be more efficiently answered if provided in advance to the staff via the district manager. Do we have anyone currently that would like public input. You see any raised hands or anything?
No.
Anyone? Okay, moving right along then. Approval of the agenda.
This is Julie. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda for today, May 13th, 2025.
This is Stephanie. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is Chris Webb. I second the approval of today's agenda.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Sounds good, so approved. That takes us to the approval of the minutes, the previous minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yep.
May I
This
have a
is
motion?
Stephanie. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 8th meeting.
Julie, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Now we have the special business agenda. The decision of the current board to pass unfinished business onto the new board of finished business.
So you guys have the option to finish any business you want, or you can choose to pass all unfinished business onto the new oncoming board.
Discussion, what would you like to do? Current board? Oh,
fine with passing it all on.
Me too.
I agree. Stephanie,
I agree.
thank you. So can I have a motion?
I make a motion to pass to the oncoming board all unfinished business. This is Julie.
Thank you, Julie. May I have a second?
This is Stephanie. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. It does. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. Does that need, that's all good now?
Nope,
Okay,
that's good.
good. That being said, the unfinished business will go on to the new board. So now we're at B, the oath for the new board members. And I believe, Stephanie, you have already taken the oath, correct?
Correct. I took that prior to leaving.
Well done.
And,
So we have,
I want to thank, Robin and Chris for, your time on the board, and, you guys can stay for the rest of the meeting, or,
I
go
guess
home
that's
back
a
to business.
dismissal. So I guess we ought to let the new board members come in and do their swearing.
Charles,
No swearing at the board.
So here's one for you, here's one for you. You guys will just raise a hand and go over.
the kids.
Say your oath.
Okay, I, James Moore, do swear that I support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the laws of the State of Colorado, and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Director of the district upon which I'm about to enter to the best of my ability. And I believe all I need to do is sign.
Yep.
Thank you.
I, Lynn Beer, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the laws of the State of Colorado, and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Director of the district upon which I am about to enter to the best of my ability.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
If you somebody to stand up and state your name.
All right.
That's what I thought it was gonna happen too, but, you know, that works too.
And let's take a seat at the table.
So long.
We do. Thank you, guys. Oh, you guys not gonna stay for the meeting?
Thanks for your service.
Big
Financial
Thanks,
auditor,
Rob.
kids.
Um, so I'll kind of take over the meeting until, we decide who's taking over what position. So, we'll move right along to voting for the positions of the officers, that'd be the president, vice president, and treasurer. Uh, so you guys can talk amongst yourselves if, Joey or Michael or Steph or one of you guys want to step up and be, one of the board officers, now's the time to have a board discussion.
If you're still willing to be treasurer, that would be awesome.
Well, I was kind of thinking somebody else with more skill in budget. Seems like you have a lot. I don't know about you. Stephanie does.
I don't have a ton of experience in budget.
I don't either. I'd be happy to stay as treasurer. I was gonna ask to be president, but if somebody else would like to be president, I'm more than happy to stay treasurer.
Well, I'm glad you volunteered to be president. I would be happy to be treasurer. If that's acceptable to Stephanie.
I would be fine with that. If, I mean, I think my biggest caveat would be, Julie, would you be able to do some hand holding for that position?
Yes.
Okay.
She volunteered to be treasurer, didn't she?
Yeah.
She didn't hear that.
Did you hear that Jim said that he would like to be treasurer or would do the treasurer position?
I did, and that's why I was just kind of wondering if you would be willing to,
Yeah.
help with that transition.
So one thing to know is that you would need to be available to sign checks. Once during the month to come in and sign checks and then at the board meeting is a big caveat there.
That's not normally a problem. I work from home. So you've put your name forward as president. I'd like to strong arm.
Well, one second, so we're not getting confused and we can stay on track.
Okay,
If we can get a motion for, sorry, Jim.
I'd like to hear from Lynn what he would like, and Stephanie, if there's a position you would like
I'm
to.
also, has Michael given any indication if what he would like? I know he's not here tonight.
So what Michael told me is, if the board as a group so decided to nominate and vote him into a spot, he would take it. Unfortunately, he can't be here because he's at his son's baseball game, so, he's relying on the board to either make him an officer or just leave him as a member at large.
Okay.
I'll do this or I'm willing to do vice president.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, I would say I'm willing to do vice president as well. Or if no one else wants,
Okay.
if you didn't want to do that, Stephanie.
Stephanie, step up.
To do vice president or president, but I didn't quite hear.
I'm not
Lynn-
Are you guys hearing me?
Lynn's volunteering himself to be the vice president, or nominating himself to be the vice president, if the board is okay with that.
I would be fine with that, and if, I'm fine also if we would like, I'm willing to step up as well. To do, I don't want to be the treasurer, but I would step up to do the vice president or the president role.
Stephanie, would you be able to be here to sign contracts and stuff with your travel?
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, I've only been in Fort Collins 3 times this year because of hiring new employees, which hopefully I don't have to hire any more employees. But most of the time, I work from home 3 days a week. And so I'm in Forest Lakes most of the time. So I don't think that would be a problem.
And just for everyone's knowledge, the board can grant me the authority to sign contracts if we know we have a contract coming that a board member is not gonna be available to sign. So there is alternatives if a board member can't sign the contract. Or you guys can
Right.
designate another board member to sign that contract. It doesn't have to be one in particular board member. Typically, it would be the president, but if the president wasn't available, it could be the vice president, treasurer, or the 2 members at large, or the board could give me the authority to sign contracts for that particular issue. Just if that helps with a
Yeah.
little bit.
Okay. So do we go ahead and put it forward? So we've got 2 people that are willing to do vice president, 2 people that are willing to do president, and 1 person that's stepped up to be the treasurer. Correct?
Yes. And all
Okay.
we need,
So I'm totally open. Do we need to have an arm wrestling competition?
we're gonna forward, we can flip forward.
Yeah,
I would be happy to step aside, and just kind of attend, be on the budget committee and help with the treasurer stuff. If Stephanie, if you'd like to be president.
yeah, sure, that would be great. I've only hesitating a little bit just because I know that you are also qualified to do that. So
That's okay. I'm good with that.
okay.
So.
So I guess we need to just we have to vote on that.
Yes. So
Let's
we need
start with
the treasurer, and then we'll do a motion for the vice president, and we'll do a motion for the president.
Since we've resolved the president, I'll make a motion that Stephanie be president of Forest Lakes Metro District Board of Directors.
Stephanie.
Yes.
So I typically print a sheet it up, that way it's easier.
And, just for the new board members, if you could state your name first, so when Barb transcribes the minutes, she knows who made the motion.
All right, so starting from scratch, I'm Jim Moore. I make a motion to nominate Stephanie Balsley as president of the Board of Directors.
This is Julie. I second the motion. So
Now
this.
you take a roll call. All in favor, aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
So where's the, I make a motion to nominate Vice President Lynn Beer as Vice President to the Board of Directors.
Now we'll need a
Make a
second.
second. Okay.
Stephanie,
All in
did you
favor?
second? Okay. Aye.
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 Aye. This is Stephanie. I'll make a motion that for Jim Moore to be treasurer.
This is when I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
So we have 3 committees. We have, the personnel committee, which in that email I sent you all pretty much is involved in taking care of, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, my evaluation and all that good jazz. We have the Parks Committee, which serves and helps us figure out what kind of parks we want and trails and all that good stuff. And then we have, the Budget Committee, which oversees the budget and, make sure I'm staying within my bounds and helps plan the budget and helps come up with capital improvement projects for our master plan and all that stuff. We don't need a motion. This is just strictly volunteer. If you guys want to serve on either board, we can't have more than 2 board members because then we get into a quorum issue. So 2 board members per committee.
I'll stay on the budget committee.
Yeah, and I'll stay on the budget committee for you. Can work with you.
So Stephanie and you will be the budget committee.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. That'll
And
make it,
also,
Should we
like,
should we suggest Michael stay on the Parks Committee since he's been so integral with that so far?
That's up to you guys.
That's fine.
I think it's a good idea. I will say, just make sure that the 3 of you don't talk at the same time.
I was about to say, would it be more conducive for the treasurer to be on the budget committee and one more?
That's kind of what I think would be better.
Yeah.
It can be done this way, you guys can't sit down together and go over the budget together. Does that make sense? You kind of
Julie, do you want to stick? I'm sorry. I have a delay, I think. I apologize. I was just wondering if Julie wanted to stay on the budget committee.
Yeah, I
You've
think
done a
that's
great
what we
job.
talked about. I could work with Jim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
to be on the budget committee and personnel committee.
Yeah, and I was gonna volunteer for the personnel committee.
I'm feeling like budget committee might be, as treasurer, might be the limit of my scope. So I won't raise my hand for parks. It sounds like we have personnel.
We don't have to have two board members to that, because we also have, we started a park committee that consists of six residents,
Yeah.
six or seven residents on top of the park committee with me, myself and Daryl. So
Michael's on there as well.
Michael can just be the board representative for that committee. You don't have to have 2.
So as the treasurer, you're more involved in everything. I don't think you would need to be on the budget committee because you're ingrained in everything anyway. It's the way I see it, but I don't know.
Me and you will talk a lot.
Yeah.
So,
So what I hear is like, the treasurer is going to be involved with a lot of the budget stuff because they're the treasurer. So they would be probably a really good choice to have on the budget. It'd also be good to have another person from the board. So you two would be the budget committee and the treasurer?
I'm adrift here just a little bit because that's what I understood. But then is it possible for Stephanie and Julie to be the budget committee and then me just be treasurer? I don't know. I don't know what makes sense.
Yeah, either way is fine. It would be, in my opinion, I think it would be better to have the treasurer on the budget committee. That way, when we start doing the budget and we have a budget committee meeting, the treasurer's involved in that with another member of the board. Or we can have the budget committee and then I can sit down with the budget committee and, start the planning process. And then after I'm done meeting with the budget committee, have a separate meeting and kind of go over what we're going and all that good stuff.
I'm inclined to think the treasurer and one other person should be the budget committee. So I'll raise my hand to volunteer for that and then say that would be my committee commitment.
Yeah, that, to me, that
Usually
makes
there to
sense
hold my
because,
Sorry?
yeah, and that makes sense so that we don't have a situation where we have a quorum. Because you've got 2 board members and the treasurer talking budget, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Can you guys explain the quorum issue, is that
So the quorum,
there's collusion between 3 board members who come to a meeting already as a quorum?
that would be considered a public meeting. So every time, so, I guess a simple way I could put it, you can speak to Lynn, right, on topic. Or you can speak to Julie on a different topic. We can't have 3 board members together making a decision or discussing Forest Lake's business without it being in a public
There we
forum.
go, got it.
You're allowed to talk business, but it has to be one-on-one.
Okay.
Be like, hey, Glenn, I was thinking about this. What's your idea? Maybe I want to take this to the board and see what the rest of the board thinks. You can't go, this is what we're gonna do, and we just made the decision over a beer. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Well, Stephanie, did you want to be on the personnel committee then, since you don't have a
Yeah,
committee?
I can definitely do that personnel committee.
Okay. Then I'll take myself off.
So
And
Stephanie,
Lynn, yeah, Lynn and Stephanie can do that.
And then Parks is Michael.
just Michael,
Just Michael.
right? Just Michael?
I mean, I could be on the Parks Committee too. It'd be kind of
So
fun.
Michael and.
Michael,
Yeah.
Perfect.
You walk around a lot, you know the area.
I was about to say, you know it.
okay. What, did Jimmy log in yet?
I think so, not as Jimmy Ray, but I seen an iPhone I don't recognize.
Hey, Leslie, do you know if, Jimmy logged in yet? Leslie?
I'm the iPhone and I'm not Jimmy.
Okay.
I haven't
Thank
seen
you.
it. Yeah, I haven't seen.
I will email Jimmy right now and tell him we are ready, we're ahead of schedule, and see if we can't get him on, because we didn't have him on till, about 6:10.
So from this point forward, since Stephanie is now the president, she should take over the meeting, correct?
That, but I think, just to help keep it simpler, she's on things, slip. Honestly, I'd be, if the board's okay, you could run it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that for my first meeting.
That way they get the rhythm of things.
Okay.
Or we can let Stephanie try to run it over the
Yeah, I mean, she,
Zoom.
Sounds hard.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I feel like there's a delay in you guys hearing me, like, so I'm thinking, if you're up for it, Julie, would you please, step up and run the meeting?
I'm sending him an email right now. See if we can't get him on. Or if we need to take a quick bathroom break while we're getting Jimmy in, we can.
During the presentation, I assume
I
there'd
see
be
you
a
on
point
Facebook.
where questions are being.
Okay.
Yes, and at any time,
Subdivision law.
Three.
so, just real quick, at any time during when he's going through the audit presentation and his findings and all that, if you have a question, feel free to, hey, Jimmy, I have a question real quick. Or save your questions till the end, because he might answer your questions as he's going through it. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it don't.
Well, I've got mine noted here, so I won't lose them.
Could you ask him to make sure he tells us what page he's on, because last time he just lost us.
Yes.
Okay.
There's some things I could ask you if it's I'll let you attend to that first.
I'm listening.
You were expecting my time. I will.
How do the Colorado trusts work? Is this like, almost like a money market that you're moving?
But the
money into
Colorado
now?
Trust Fund?
Yeah.
So it is like a money market. Outside of this, I can go through the whole thing, but it's kind of like a 401k, if you will. You take a portion of your money and you're investing it. Really, you can think of it like a savings account, but it's not a savings account for us. So what we do is,
But it does earn pretty good interest, I see.
yes, so, kind of what we do with that is, in community bank, we want to stay right around that 250, because that's what's federally insured. So once we get over that, if we get over that by a significant amount, we'll transfer early, but typically at the end of the month, we'll transfer money into that. So we're gaining better interest on it. And then as we have a big project come up, we'll pull out of the Colorado Trust Fund, put it in our bank account to fund said project.
It is,
You think we could go ahead and deviate from the agenda while we're waiting on him to get a couple of these things in? Like the approval of the disbursements and overview
I don't see why not.
financial statements, because he could be a little bit.
I don't see it. We can move on.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to take the minutes out of order and do the April 2025 disbursements. Well, let me find what page that's on because I don't know.
got around 100, I think.
You know, Shauna, what page that's on?
I do not. I have a copy of the disbursement if that will,
Yeah.
if that would help.
Let's see the dates.
It's on page 86.
86, 87.
Okay, so
Thanks, Leslie.
this is gonna be from you. Or can I do it?
You can do it.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the check register for April 1st through April 30th in the amount of, oh, there's a discrepancy here. 98,298.53, which is on the paper. So is that correct? That's what's on the agenda?
I think it is, yes.
What's on the paper?
Okay, so the agenda needs to be changed to 98,298.53. For the check register, so we just need a second motion.
2893.
I'll second that, and with a question. What is the significance of us doing this, approving the check register?
They're filming us to spend money to pay our bills. So essentially, everything you're seeing on that is what we're sending out the bill.
Okay,
So you're approving us spending the residents' dollars to pay the bills.
this isn't actually out the door yet, then.
That's
Some of
sitting,
them are.
some of it is, some of them are not.
Okay, all right.
Some of this, as you can see, and we can go over this outside of this, we're not really prolonging this meeting. The manual entries are ACHs, right? And then you'll see the ones that have the actual check number. These aren't really check numbers.
Okay.
These are the check numbers. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So these are manual entries, which would be ACHs and wire and whatever.
But we're essentially retroactively approving the activity in April.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, they call it ratifying the expenditures. So what you're doing is ratifying the expenditures.
And the lady that's speaking right now, her name is Leslie, and she's our accountant.
Ah,
Hi, nice to meet you.
Okay, so he's not on yet, so let's move.
we didn't vote on it yet. I seconded.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
I
it?
made a motion.
Okay,
And then we need to go call. You guys gotta vote.
Is everyone approved? Aye.
I,
Yeah, Stephanie said I.
Okay. And Hugh is not,
No.
Okay. Let's move on to the overview of the Colorado Trust and Bank accounts.
Yeah, I don't have those in front of me, so typically what I was doing in my manager's report, I was just stating what we had in there. I figured if we're gonna do what's for April, I'm just gonna start putting the statements in like that. That way it's public, everybody can see what's sitting in which account, minus the redacted information. Uh, any questions on that? Does that work for everybody, or do you continue to want me to speak it out loud?
I think this is excellent.
Yeah, that works for me.
Let's move on to the financial statement, April 2025.
No, it's just, we just made it in, at the end of the discussion.
Jeez.
Also in your packet, you shall see the financial statement. We actually, were able to get it included in the packet. At first glance, it looks very confusing. If you would like me to sit down with you and kind of go over it, I will do that on a one-on-one basis. I think it'll take a lot of time to kind of go over that whole thing with everybody. And that same thing with the public, if you have a question about the financial statement you see in the package from now on, you're more than welcome to come in. Sean or myself can explain them away.
And as a board, is it the same thing, you just want it in the packet, or do you want one of us to present something on a
Actually,
regular
I
basis?
think one of the things in the audit is the board reviews it and then the board approves the financial statements.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be a new step we do from here on out, from what I can recall from the audit.
I like it.
This has been a long time coming. We've been working on this for a hot minute. And I think we got all the processes figured out from the last audit and this current audit.
And I can't remember if there's a signature page on the financial statements or not, but I will make sure that one gets on there for next month.
We can do that.
So we can have it signed and approved like we do the disbursements.
Any questions on that?
Point of information, I'll ask you individually to explain the budget actuals. It's, you know, the
So one,
unexpended, and you don't need to do that now, but
well, that's actually really simple to, if you scroll up to the top where I can see it. So you have period actual, you have year-to-date actual, that's what we spent
Right.
year-to-date. That's what we budgeted, that's what's in the budget for that line item, that 44,000. That's what we still have left, not spent. We've spent 33.6% of that line item.
so in many cases, you've underspent considerably, and that's a
Well,
real thing.
Now, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you're looking at this bottom number in particular. We're at 37% expended overall. Now scroll a little further down,
And is that for the year or for?
That's for the year.
Okay.
and you see
okay,
right here at the bottom of the page, we're at 33% of the fiscal year has elapsed.
Okay,
So we're 4%.
over budget.
Well, we're not over yet, but we're 37% at 37% expended, and we're at 33% of the year.
Right.
Now, we can end up going over. More likely, what you'll see is spending is going to start to slow down because all the big ticket items are getting taken care of, like right out the gate. That's why you'll see that huge influx, and then it'll start slowing down. And you'll see a couple more projects, and it'll pick up a little bit, and then as long as we don't go over that bottom dollar in that fund, we'll be okay. It's okay to go over these individual line items. We don't want to, but there are some unforeseen expenses, like we just gonna get one heck of a mechanic bill because one of the trucks broke down. We think it's a rod or valve issue, hopefully, and not a rod. We didn't plan for rebuilding a motor, so we're gonna blow that maintenance budget for vehicle repair and maintenance. But we can pinch pennies elsewhere and keep the bottom dollar within range. Does that make sense?
What you've explained here is that basically I'm looking at the year, and this is 4 months worth of the year and then a percentage. So now this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we can get a lot deeper in detail one-on-one, or we can do groups of two if needed. I know it's kind of confusing at first looking at it, 'cause like, there's a whole bunch of numbers on here and they don't make a whole lot of sense.
Anything else on the financial statement?
I have nothing else to add.
No. Stephanie?
Nothing from me. I think it's good.
He's still not on, so we'll go on to the staff reports, district manager.
We were awarded 2 grants, both are pertaining to fire mitigation. Grassy Mountain Project, the first grant we received from them was $4,500.
You find Luna?
Yep.
Where was she?
She came out from underneath the bed when I called her. I went.
Not board business.
Oh, sorry. The first grant, we got, just over $45,000 to repair repair the roads that, the logging trucks are gonna tear up eventually. If we end up needing more money, we can apply for a second grant. And we're the only ones competing for it, so I'm not worried about it. Second one, that the front entrance fire mitigation. We got a grant through Wildfire Adaptive Partnerships. The total cost of that project is gonna be $5,746 out of our pocket. Because we got awarded $11,054. So it's a great grant and now we're gonna have more money to spend throughout the district doing some more fire mitigation. Cause we budgeted, what, 15,000?
Yeah.
We budgeted 15,000 this year to do fire mitigation. So we'll have right around 10,000 to do some other mitigation, or if we have a tree that falls down on the road, we can call CCFM and have them come get rid of it. Internet issues at the shop, they're still not fixed. We got Starlink equipment here, and I'll let Mark touch on it a little bit more because he's been more in tune with it, but we can't seem to get Starlink to work now either, but that'll be in Mark's report. We got this structural engineer for the community center yesterday, so ignore that little bullet point. We're not awaiting it no more. I did attend a CCMA conference, and I sat in a budget class because I was kind of curious how other municipalities were trying to come up with a roadmap of how they fund their capital projects. And then from that, with Leslie's help and Jimmy, our auditor, we're looking at a couple different ways to institute it for us, because we are not as huge as a municipality, but we definitely need to define how we're going to fund capital projects. Right now, we can set up 3 separate funds, capital improvement funds, and, take a portion of water, put it in here, sewer. I'm kind of intrigued with what Jamie was saying. There's another way to do it. It's called the internal, correct me if I'm wrong, let's see, the internal service fund. It's kind of the same thing. I'm still learning that one because that one honestly kind of confuses me right off the get-go. So that's what we're working on, and, I'll be working with you on that quite extensively this year. Figuring out how we're actually, because if you look at that, Colorado Trust statement, it says we have 1.3 million in capital funds. Well, I can promise you that 1.3 million is not all capital fund, that a lot of that is operating funds. And so what we're trying to do is figure out what money should be where, so we can move it out of the, because to the naked eye, if you didn't know any better, we take 400,000 out of the capital improvement fund to pay our utility bills. Well, we're gonna get slapped on the hand by DOLA because we're not supposed to use capital funds for operating expenses. And so on subsurface, that's not what's happening, but that's the appearance of it.
So
That makes sense?
Yes.
what you're talking about is what Jimmy said was to invest it differently.
Yeah,
Different
so
account.
if you look at the statement, we have the operating fund.
Yeah,
So instead of it being in the capital fund, like I've been doing now, I've been putting it in the operating fund. And that's the one we're primarily pulling money in and out of versus the capital. So it doesn't appear that we're breaking the law.
In lieu of advice from the auditor and so forth.
Well,
There has to be
I started that
transfer.
process on my own.
Mhm.
What we're looking at doing now is defining a roadmap of what we should be putting in the capital fund versus the operating fund and the service impact fees. Versus as it was being done before, they were just taking a lump sum and throwing it right into the capital fund,
Understood.
which is, they're mixing up the pots, and it's unclear to me. Leslie might have a better idea, and Jimmy Ray is on.
He just entered.
Evening.
It's kind of hard for me to tell what's supposed to be in there and what's not supposed to be. And then the rest of the information, I'll let you guys read. And Jimmy Ray has joined us, and I think we can proceed with the audit.
Let me rearrange just one thing on my computer, maybe, and we'll be good to go.
Jimmy, just give us
Or
a
not.
heads up when you're ready.
I'm ready. We're good. So I think, as we did last year, let's start with the letter to those charged with governance. It's the document that's got our letterhead on there. I think it's a good summary and overview of the audit process and what occurred during the process. First of all, I'd like to say we appreciate the opportunity to be your auditors and to be working with the town. If you have any questions, please stop us and we'll answer them in the middle of the presentation.
Hey, Jimmy.
As we indicated last year,
Jimmy.
this letter is required now to be reported to the board after Enron. It's kind of a checklist. All yes questions or all no questions are what you want. And basically that is what the district has. Yes.
yes. Corey's trying to say something to you.
Hey, it was asked if, when you're going through it, can you state what page you're on so everybody that's looking at the audit can, follow along?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just kind of going through the introduction. I will start on page 1. You can see qualitative aspects of the accounting practice. And that talks about the fact that your significant accounting procedures and policies are in note 2 to the financials. The district did implement 2 GASB pronouncements, and GASB is the entity that sets accounting standards for governments. One was number 100, accounting changes, and one was number 101, a statement of error corrections, an amendment, and an amendment of GASB 62. basically GASB 100, as I said earlier, was on or 101 was on, or yes, I'm sorry, 101 was on compensated absences. And that says that a liability now needs to be booked for compensated absences if it is probable that it will either be paid out in cash or it will be used in time off. So for the district, what that meant was the district added sick leave as a compensation liability, and you have to estimate how much of that sick leave that's earned will be taken. And the district, I think, correctly estimated 50%. So both the compensated absences at the government wide and also in the enterprise funds increased. Going on to page 2. Accounting estimates are in every financial statement, including yours. Some accounting estimates are pretty significant. The most significant accounting estimates that the district has are those related to the pension and the OPEB, just because they are large estimates and they affect the numbers pretty significantly. And we'll look at those when we get into the notes, but those are basically the rate of return on investments, what planned inflation will be, and how long people that are in the plan are going to live and have to be paid benefits. The next estimate relates to capital assets and the lives of those assets and how long those assets will remain in service. The third estimate in the district's financials that we believe are significant is the amount of accounts receivable that will be collected next year and the amounts that simply will have to be written off, although the district does have procedures to certify receivables and assure their collection. And the final estimate is the amount of gravel inventory. That inventory gets crushed every several years, and again, it's a fairly large number. At the bottom of that page, we talk about disclosures. Sometimes there are things in financial statement footnotes that are hidden time bombs in effect. So the disclosures are pretty important. And as you read them, you can see the risks that the district is facing. What I will tell you is, if I was a board member, as I said last year, with the exception of what the pensions can do, if, for example, investments crater again, as they did 15 years ago, there really aren't a lot of risks in your financial statements. It's a pretty standard set of government financial statements. Frankly, the district, in the first disclosure that we talked about, the risks in cash and investments, your investments are pretty conservative. There are governments who are trading commodities and dollars and interest rate swaps. You have none of that. So there is really no risk in your investment portfolio. The second disclosure, again, is OPEB and pension in notes 8 and 9, note 16, wonderful pages, of which there'll be a test later. And finally, the disclosures related to commitments in note 13. We believe that the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. In other words, there isn't any language to obscure any risks. We talk about difficulties encountered in performing the audit, and we had none. We had the normal standard accounting, let's work our way through this type of issue, but really no difficulties. On the top of page 3, we talk about corrected and uncorrected mistakes. In other words, audit adjustments. There were a few. We worked with management. One that we reclassified that we don't suggest the district makes is there were some funds that had negative cash balances. We moved those to a due to, due from. And what you'll see when we get to the notes to the financial statements is your banking amount, your banking checking account balance was actually zero. We don't really have a problem with that at all, as it's good use of your money to invest as much as you can as a district, and the district did that. There was issues with Asset Keeper, which your staff worked their way through and corrected, but that had a pretty big effect on depreciation expense. There was a small adjustment for property taxes receivable. We also have some entries related to the capitalization and recording of the John Deere motor grader lease. Under GASB Statement 87, that lease now has to be capitalized and a right to use asset recorded. We recorded or we proposed an entry to record receivables for the government grants, transactions related to OPEB and the pension plan, and finally to reconcile capital assets and long-term debt to the subsidiary ledgers. We're pleased to report that we had no disagreements with management. The management will sign a representation letter. At the bottom of page 3, we talk about occasionally governments and audit clients will look for a second opinion, talk to another CPA firm or another set of auditors. That, to our knowledge, did not occur, with the exception of what would be normal, which is talking to your accounting consultant, Leslie. On the top of page 4, we start to basically just talk about RSI and SI, and there's really not a lot of good information in there. But if we move to page 5, we can look at the financial information. And this shows you the effect that PARA has on the district's finances. Obviously, PARA is not something the district's going to have to write a check for tomorrow, or really probably for 20 or 30 years. But if PARA and PARA's OPEB, the health trust plan, were not included, the net position of the district would be approximately $290,000 higher. In the enterprise funds, it would be approximately $130,000 higher. There is an exact opposite effect when you look at net income, and that is, for the last several years, the pensions have actually contributed revenue to the district because of the liability decrease, and that's because either investment earnings worked or were better than what were planned. The district's percentage of the liability decreased, that kind of thing. Not to put anybody to sleep, but basically that liability is determined by taking your share of the contributions as a district and dividing it by all of the contributions that PARA division receives, and allocating the liabilities based on those amounts. At the next page, we do have some positive comments, which we always like to include. The first one is, look outside, it's May. There were 2 years ago when I don't think we started the audit this early. And so getting this information is much better. That your staff should be, and your consultant should be appraised, because they worked hard to make sure the books were closed by the end of February, which got us here. We also want to recognize Shauna for working to understand accounting, like taking the 101 class. There are things that are happening that's improving your accounting processes, and some of those are happening behind the scenes, but they're working. The second point we want to raise is, we know that raising rates is difficult, and you know that too. But we've been concerned about the wastewater fund basically enterprise funds by their nature should be a break-even transaction or break-even fund. The wastewater fund had a net operating loss, or the enterprise funds in total, of about $190,000. The wastewater fund lost money this year, despite having pretty significant tap fees, impact fees, and OPEB and para revenue, and those totaled almost $150,000. And all of those we would say are pretty long term and should probably be going to the bottom line. Finally, on the top of page 7, we talk about the improvements that the district has done. As you know, it revised its chart of accounts. That should help management and the board make decisions in the future. It also changed how salary costs are allocated between the general and enterprise funds. That had a significant effect on the para and OPEB liabilities, as in the enterprise funds, they dropped approximately 77,000. The amounts that were recorded at the end of 23 dropped about $77,000. And that's shown because it's a change in estimate in revenues in the current year. And finally, the district is trying to determine the most appropriate method for accounting for and setting aside funds for future capital improvements. So all of those things should be noted. And again, they are improvements, and the district is moving forward. The one suggestion that we have is the district pass some policies. We are recommending that they look at perhaps approving a few more, such as a disaster recovery plan, document retention plan, capital asset policy. You can see the plans there. All it does is it kind of memorializes what is happening right now in terms of policies that are being followed. And it also sets out the board's wishes for what it wants to have done in the district and how it wants the district to operate. Before we look at the numbers briefly, that is a pretty high level view of the audit process. Are there any questions?
No.
Great.
Okay, I would like to go to the financial statements.
Are we going to section C, Jimmy, C1?
You know what? Actually, I was going to start with the opinion and go over that briefly and just discuss that. It's kind of laying out what occurred in terms of how we saw the numbers and what our opinion says, which is really the only part of this financial statement that we have any authorship over, although we did assist in preparing the financials, or have any way to say this is an absolute and this is what should follow. The first paragraph on page A1 is the 2 opinion paragraphs. The first one says what we did. The second one gives our opinion. This is a clean, unmodified opinion. It says that the numbers, and again, as I said earlier, the disclosures that follow are an accurate representation of 2024, 2024. What you should know is in the first paragraph, it talks about accompanying financial statements of various funds and reports. The district has 6 opinion units, unlike General Motors, which would only have 1. And those 6 are like the government-wide, the combination of the enterprise funds in the business type activities. the general fund, the water fund, and the wastewater fund, and also then any remaining aggregate fund information. So the district could receive a modified opinion on the general fund and a clean opinion on the other statements, or a modified opinion on the government-wide because fixed assets aren't up to par, none of which occurred. But you understand this is not a simple one opinion financial statement. No government's is. I would like to jump to B1 really quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was lost as to where you were.
I'm sorry, I was on A1.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, now let's go to B1. That is the MD&A. For several years, this is management's discussion and analysis. So this is a document written by your staff and your consultant. It's a good overview, comparison of this year to last year. Talks about the budgets, it talks about the funds, and it talks about the government-wide statements. If you read nothing else, we would read this, suggest reading this to get an overview. Now we would like to start and go to C1. C1 is the government-wide statements. These statements are on the full accrual basis. They show all of the assets of the district, including the capital assets, and all the liabilities of the district, including the long-term liabilities, like the
Jimmy?
capital leases and the loans.
Jimmy,
Yes? Yes, sir.
before you go into C1, on B4, and you've already
One
touched
second.
on this, on page B4, you itemize pension and OPEB revenues. And,
Yes.
and you show essentially a hash mark in 2024. Can you explain just a little bit more how it comes to be that which I understand to be essentially retirement funds, are mixing in here? What does this mean?
Okay. Let us start perhaps back at the top. PERA has two, at least for the district, has two distinct plans. One is the pension plan, and y'all are in the local government division. There are 4 divisions to their pension plans. And then there's a second plan, which is called the Healthcare Trust Plan, which is basically called an OPEB plan. Okay. And that OPEB plan subsidizes retirees' health insurance premiums. Okay. The district pays into both of those plans. And so they both are reported as part of the district. So what GASB did under statement 68 was, and 73, it said, look, you've got to record your share of the pension and the OPEB liability, or it could be an asset. Okay. FPPA has some funds which are actually overfunded at this point. PERA is not overfunded at this point, as you're well aware. And so, again, we take the share of district contributions divided by overall contributions for that division, and we take it times the liability, and we take it times the other pieces of that plan, which are need to be recorded at the district level. What I would tell you is, jumping ahead a little bit, if you go to page C1 again, and you look in the middle of the page under the assets, there's something called deferred outflows of resources. And there are two of those. And in total, these are $312,000. This is the district share of those resources. And if you go into notes 8 and 9, you can see specifically what they are, but they're basically actuarial tools that kind of smooth things out. In other words, one of the deferred outflows or inflows is the amount of actual earnings compared to expected earnings, and then that is amortized over the remaining useful lives of participants. Another of the deferred outflows, which is like an asset, is the pension reporting is a year behind. So the numbers that are in here are actually 12/31/23 numbers, so that the actuary and the district has enough time to collect this information. So one of those is the contributions that the district made in 24 are actually shown as a deferred outflow, kind of an asset. Okay. And then there's some reporting which is specific to the district. And again, it kind of smooths out the contributions. And it says, well, if it takes the contribution percentage this year, contribution percentage last year, and again, it takes and amortizes that difference over the remaining useful lives of participants. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that calculation, but basically that's what that is.
I was just surprised to see it in a statement of activity as a revenue item. But I think this is not a conversation for this meeting. Maybe I'll ask you some other time. Like I said, it's in P&L basically, and I was surprised to see this liability in a P&L.
Well, yeah, it's what should be in the P&L is the change, and then the liability is reported in the statement of net position.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to comment on that, you'll see that in the government-wide statements, but when you get to the individual fund statements, then they're not there anymore. They only appear on the big government-wide statements.
With the exception of the enterprise funds, which again are reported on the full accrual, so they are on the enterprise fund statements, but just not on the general fund.
Thank you. So
as we go back, and I'm happy for the question, and I'm happy everybody kind of stayed awake. Although, again, I think it's a legitimate question, and it's an issue that a lot of boards wrestle with. If you look at the government-wide statements, again, on the full accrual basis, assets went up almost $700,000 in total. A lot of that, $400,000, went into cash. And then property tax revenues, because again, that temporary property tax mill levy reduction was removed, if you will, for 2025. Property taxes went up $150,000. Liabilities were almost the same. Overall net position. On a long term, how are we doing again on a General Motors type basis? The district's net position went up for about 450,000, which we'll see on the next page. And most of that, or more than that, 600,000, went into unrestricted net position. So the amount that the district has of funds it can use any way it wants to use, again, went up 600,000. The other big number in net position is net investment in capital assets. And that is the amount of capital assets less the debt used to acquire them if debt was used. So that's a big number of the 5.8 million. And as the MD&A says, that's about 50, well, it's more than that. That's about 86% of net position. But obviously those assets can't be sold or used to fund operations in the normal course of things. On C2, we have the statement of activities, again, full accrual basis. But what you note here is that expenses are on the far left-hand side. Then we have the program revenues, which are grants, charges for services, which can be used to offset those costs by type of financial statement line category, such as general government. And then you have the net expense revenue. What I will tell you is, again, we expect that the enterprise funds will have a positive, or the business type activity funds will have a positive net revenue number, because the rest of their revenues are used basically, again, for general purposes and for long-term activities. The governmental activities you would expect to be negative, because property taxes are not a program revenue, nor are investment earnings. And so you can see that that amount is needed to make governmental activities a positive number at the end of the year. The other change that occurred last year, as you are aware, is property taxes are all now reported in the general fund. And last year, the amount that the enterprise funds would have received for those taxes was shown as an operating transfer from the general fund to those funds. Change in that position increased $250,000 over the 2023 number. If we go to C4, you'll see there's a new fund, as you expected, and as you know from budgeting, the Conservation Trust Fund. Basically, if you look at the general fund and compare it to 2023, cash is up significantly, more than $260,000. And that had a very positive effect on fund balance. There's also a large increase at the bottom of this page in the assigned fund balance. And that is the subsequent expenditures over revenues in next year's general fund budget. And that was almost $350,000. Nothing wrong with that. Again, most of that is your sweeper and your capital outlay, but that revenue has been set aside and broken out from what the district has that's unassigned in the general fund and can be used for any purpose.
Did you say sweeper, Jimmy?
It will be. I mean, that's basically in you know the budget better than we do, but you know, you've got a deficit that's basically the sweeper and about $50,000 more.
Are you talking about the plow truck we're buying? We're not getting a sweeper.
I'm sorry, the snow plows. Did I say sweeper?
Okay, thank you.
If we go to C5, this is in effect the income statement for the general fund and for the conservation trust funds. Again, because of the change in property taxes and a few other changes, revenues are up almost $600,000 from last year. The expenditures are pretty comparable, even though there was no the John Deere lease was refinanced in 2023. Obviously, that didn't occur in 24, and that reduced your expenses. These two statements are on the budget basis of accounting, money in and money out. And what we care about on the bottom line of these two statements is, did we get enough money in to pay our bills? Do we get enough money in to pay the principal on debt? And did we get enough money in to pay the operating costs along with any capital outlay that we wish to purchase? From this year to last year, the amount of net and change fund, the amount of net change in fund balance was a positive swing of more than $250,000. So again, at the end of 2024, the general fund had net fund balance of $618,000. We've talked about the proprietary funds a little bit when we were looking at the government-wide. Assets for the proprietary funds on page C7 are pretty consistent with the prior year. Liabilities are down, mostly due to the pension and the OPEB. Liabilities decreasing. Accounts payable due to some capital activity due to the water and the generators is up about 50,000. Overall, that second from the bottom number, unrestricted net position, is up almost $200,000 when compared to 2023. So from what happened in the general fund and what happened in these funds, is you can see that the district's flexibility of how they spent their money or have money to spend became better in 24 than it was in 23. If we go to C8, revenues, operating revenues are up about 175,000. Operating expenses are up about 50,000. And again, the number we were talking about earlier is there after the first number in non-operating revenues is that pension OPEB income of $130,000. Tap fees, we will tell you, are also up about 70,000 when compared to last year. Overall, the water fund made about 266,000. The wastewater lost about 27,000. Again, so net income in the enterprise funds was $240,000. Here's the statement of cash flows on
One second, Jimmy.
Yes.
Just keep in mind, losing the 27,000 in the sewer fund is for 2024. The rate increase didn't take effect in the sewer till January 1st of this year. All right, sorry, Jimmy.
No, that's fine. I was just grabbing a quick drink. What I would tell you is on C9 is a statement of cash flows. And there's two numbers we'd like to highlight here. The first is the subtotal net cash provided used for operating activities. And as you can see, the wastewater fund, again, not to beat a dead horse, it took $80,000 operating activities of cash in 2023. The water fund had a positive 43,000 in activities. Both funds, though, in about the middle of the page, had a positive increase in cash. Again, mostly in the wastewater fund due to tap fees. Excuse me. And so that is the effect that those two funds had on cash.
Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Question actually for Corey. You just made the point that wastewater fees went up this January. And we're showing 80K revenue loss in '24. Can you project reasonably well what the increased fees will do to that deficit?
I have it on a spreadsheet. No, I can show you outside of this meeting.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
It's not gonna be a significant increase, but it is getting us
Some of
going in the right direction. We shouldn't be losing money this year in the sewer fund.
And I'll throw in one more thing. If you look at it, you say, well, we had depreciation, and let me go grab that number real quick, of, $92,000, and that would cover the loss. There are people who would say this is a paper loss. And what I would suggest to the board is that this loss is, you shouldn't have a paper loss in an enterprise fund because that depreciation is covering the cost of setting away resources to purchase assets the next go around. So a paper loss, quote unquote, has some significance for the district. On C10, we have the fiduciary funds, which are the bond escrow funds. These funds haven't changed since we started the audit. Several years ago, we suggested talking to district council, and seeing if these can become some kind of a cheat property and the district can use these for operations. The notes begin on page D1. Again, what I would say is what I said earlier in the presentation, and that is if I was a board member, I wouldn't be worried that there are time bombs or ticking bombs within these notes, again, with the exception of the pension liabilities and the OPEB liabilities. In the second paragraph of note 1, government can have what are in effect subsidiaries or can be a subsidiary of another government. Forest Lakes is neither one of these. It has no component units, and it is not a component unit of any other government. Going to D4. At the top of the page, here are the allowances for doubtful accounts in the various funds. This number did increase significantly because the district changed correctly how it was accounting for these funds. But these numbers went up a little bit. Again, I think it's as much an accounting issue as anything else, but we just wanted to point that out. If we go to page D8, here we're again talking about the risks in your cash and investment footnotes. What you will find is, as you know, all of your deposits are collar trust, which are conservative and fairly safe. As I said earlier, the actual cash balance is 0 in the checking account, which is probably really good cash management. And so cash and investments, again, as a board member, would not give me any heartburn. I'm moving pretty quickly through the notes. If we go to page D20, this is the start of those pension OPEB notes, all 14 or 16 pages of them. What I wanted to highlight here in the middle of the page is the actuarial assumptions. And you can see what they are. You can see again that they're price and wage inflation. They are the amount of salary growth. And the big one that everybody talks about is that long-term investment rate of return of 7.25%. If you go to page D23, you can see that if over the long haul, the pension plan earns another percentage in investment earnings up to 8.25, it pretty much virtually wipes out the district's liability. Comes pretty close. It goes from $550 to $100,000. Conversely, if it drops a percent to 6.25, it just about doubles. So that is a pretty significant estimate that really feeds how much pension liability and other deferred inflows and outflows the district records. I'm going to skip over the OPEB and just go to 34. Basically, it's the same information. It's the same type of assumptions and estimates. The one thing that gives us some comfort as your auditors is the fact that you've got some experts, hopefully at para, determining what the rate of return and what these assumptions should be, along with what is hopefully a very sound actuarial firm that it's doing its duty and making sure the estimates are right. Page 34 at the top of the page, note 12. Again, although these are budgeted, we just wanted to talk about the snowplow purchase and the generator project cost to finish, as both of these will be coming out of the bank account, and they're pretty significant. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just everybody needs to be aware that cash is going to drop a little bit between now and the end of the year. Now and the end, yes, of 2025. Then again, quickly looking at E1 is the budget to actual. We want to commend the board and the staff and the consultant for proposing and doing a supplemental appropriation. There are governments who believe supplemental appropriations say that the government missed the mark when it originally did the budget. We don't believe that because nobody's got a crystal ball. And again, we think it's a great thing that you all did a supplemental budget. The drivers, as you can see, revenues were almost $200,000 higher than budget. That's mostly because of property tax increases or variances of a positive $125,000 in the general fund. And then on the bottom of E1, you can see that the expenditures tracked pretty closely, except for capital outlay. Again, with the change in the chart of accounts, the lineup of what is actually a variance due to spending versus due to chart of accounts may have some impact on this, but the operating variances were all negative and capital outlay was the one that was positive. You were budgeted to lose $53,000. Again, you had a positive $197,000, $198,000 budget revenues over expenditures, which again is $250,000 positive variance. I want to go quickly through the enterprise funds, which are basically, sorry about that, which are basically beginning on F1. And you can see that for revenues in the water fund, there were 3 or 4 categories that had high variances of more than 285,000 in total. And as I said earlier, expenditures tracked pretty close to the budget. The water fund was projected to lose 165,000. It actually made 140. So that's a positive variance of more than 300,000. And finally, on the wastewater fund, you can see that again, the last two lines, I'm on page E2, transfers in and OPEB revenue resulted in positive variances and an overall positive variance in revenue of 130,000. And expenditures tracked pretty well, with exception again of capital outlay. And so expenditures were within about $80,000 of what was budgeted and was a positive variance. Again, due to capital outlay mostly and administrative costs. The sewer fund was estimated to lose 150,000. It made 61, so there was a positive variance of more than 210,000. That, in summary, is the audit report for the district for 2024. I would again like to commend your staff and your consulting accountant for getting us here in May. The records keep getting better every year. Again, they should be commended also for that. There were no issues reconciling cash this year, and that hasn't been the case in past years with different staff. So the district is definitely moving in the right direction. Are there any other questions? Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy, did I read somewhere on Tabor that we might be able to split it up between general water and wastewater?
I'm sorry, it kind of broke up.
We're only allowed to take 10% of what, of revenue for the enterprise fund and water. So if we get 200,000, you could take 10% of that and transfer that into the water fund. If we get 300,000 in the wastewater, we take 10% of that and transfer it from the general fund into the water fund.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we can't split the taxes equally 3 ways. That's not Tabor compliant.
I guess, Corey, one question, and I know it's out of the blue and I apologize, is one of the covenants, I'm sorry, never mind. I got confused with another client for a minute there. No, never mind.
Okay. My covenants, we don't have covenants. Stop it. Stop it.
D10, you had mentioned something that there might be some compliance concerns with Tabor. Did I read that wrong?
There are, no, I would say there are, this year there are not. A lot of that Tabor language, quite frankly, is back from when Tabor first passed and the state auditor's office and everybody else came out with a pretty standard boilerplate note. And no governments have really spent a lot of time updating that note.
I have one more question. Transfers and interfund, is that what you were talking about earlier? Interfund?
Yeah. That we're still hashing that
We're
out.
still talking about that. Okay.
And what would be the appropriate way for a small district like, well, I shouldn't say small district, a district like us to do. The city of Durango does it one way. They kind of have both, but it's really confusing looking at other people's budgets that are huge compared to what we have.
Okay.
You good, Stephanie?
No, I guess I don't, if it would be appropriate, is the district going to vote to accept the audit and then we will get the management rep letter signed and filed with the state?
Yes, they are gonna make a motion to, approve the budget as presented, I believe. I was asking Stephanie if she was good to proceed forward, or if Stephanie had any questions.
You're on mute, Stephanie.
Okay, she's good.
She's good.
I think that's what she said.
This is Julie.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, I have no questions and I am good to proceed. I apologize.
This is Julie. I make a motion to approve the 2024 audit.
I'll second that.
All those in
Jim
favor?
Moore.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jimmy, for all your
We'll get
work.
this filed.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yes, thank you for allowing us to be here. Take care. Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie, also, and
Oh,
Shauna.
yes. Yep.
Next, we'll move to the district manager. Were you still?
I'm done with mine unless you have any questions for me.
I have one on the, let me get to it here.
Oh, excuse me.
Let's see what page it was on.
You want this?
Yeah. One question I have is the Forest Lakes Facebook page. So it's great that we've got it up and running and everything, but when we had agreed to have the Facebook page, it was to also mirror the FLMD website. And there's things on the website that are not on the website that are on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I didn't put some of the, like the 80-20 or the cost share for the Wild Adaptive Partnership on our website, because I don't think we need to clutter up space on our website with stuff like that. Or, lost keys that we put on there. And then, I forget what the other one. The fair was on the website.
The what?
And like. The fair. Today we received a request from the post office to put some information out there on Facebook saying go check the parcel boxes because people aren't checking their mail and people can't get their packages because the parcel lockers are full. I wasn't gonna put that on the website. I was just gonna do a quick, announcement alert on Facebook saying, check your mailboxes, postal service is running out of space. Or something along those lines.
Well, the biggest concern that all the residents have, and we have to remember, is some are on Facebook, some are on Nextdoor, and some aren't on any of them at all. And that's why we were gonna have the website be the main page of information, supplementing it with Facebook to get that audience. So what I'm seeing is maybe we need on our webpage a section for things that are similar to what you're putting out on Facebook.
So we are looking at because on the Facebook on the website, we can actually on the homepage do a direct link for whatever's posted on Facebook is put, like if you go to Bayfield's website, their Facebook page populates on the website. Yeah, kind of like a widget, yes, exactly like a widget. And we're looking into that and see if it's cost extra or if it's just something we create on our own.
Yeah.
So we are looking into that.
Okay.
But like, I'm not gonna put a notification on the website about lost keys.
Well, but we've got, the election results. And thank you, Shauna, for putting those out there, but you've got the trip counter on Facebook and only the trip counter results on the website. So when you go to that, what does that mean? There's no context as to what that trip counter Excel spreadsheet is.
Just a vehicle count.
But on Facebook, you put what it was about. So you see what I'm saying? We need to have them mirror each other. We need to have the same information on our website for next door neighbor people to go in there and look. Because Facebook has, I don't know how many people, but it's not the entire community. I mean, anybody else have any input on that?
I get what you're saying in terms of more long-term information stuff. I think the notification piece, like the mail key, that I don't see. I agree with Corey. And that I don't think needs to be on the website, but yeah, if there's extra detail on, which I didn't notice that, on like traffic counter piece on Facebook, adding that as like a description below what the link is in the website would make sense. So,
Yeah.
and if we get the widget thing, I kind of would solve some of that, but
Because Jim brought up a good point to me, to find a software that takes Nextdoor, Facebook, and the website, and it puts it all in all those places once you put it out on the web page.
I am not doing next door.
Well, we have a lot of residents on Nextdoor, and they are not on Facebook.
Sorry for them, but I just
Why?
I can't do that platform. I tried it. It's confusing to me. And quite honestly, I don't have the time to do all these. If we're gonna try to incorporate all these different platforms, we need to get a POI, or public information, or PIO, sorry, public information person in here that can manage, the Facebook, manage the website, Nextdoor app, or whatever other apps are out there.
Well, that's what I was saying. There's software that does all that. It's you enter it into one place and it fans out.
Well, if there's a software that'll do it, I'm for it, but we don't have the manpower to manage all these social media sites on top of doing our day-in jobs.
Yeah.
Unless you want me to sit at home while drinking a cold one, playing on social media sites.
Oh,
If there's a software program that'll do that, I'm all for it, but I'm not doing individual things unless the board really wants me to do it, but I'm gonna protest loudly.
What did you say, Stephanie?
yeah, so I'm just wondering, are you saying there's several different options for a software?
There are.
That
I did. Yeah.
Like, we could, whatever we post on, say, the web page or Facebook would then get spread out to. Do you have any idea how much something like that costs?
I do not. That would have to be looked into.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can table that and talk about it at the next meeting or offline. Just to figure stuff out, like what are options and what does it actually look like to implement it? Maybe you and I can talk about it and get a little more detail on it.
Sure.
Okay.
And don't take me wrong, if there's a platform that will do all of it, then I'm all game, but we don't have the manpower to do all the different avenues of social media out there.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe next month we can talk about our social media webpage and all that stuff.
And if you know the program, we can get together outside of this and show me which program you're talking about.
I'm just Googling here, so there's something called Zapier, and I don't know anything about it, but it is an automation tool to tie together Facebook and Nextdoor. And if then the website has an integration tool with Facebook, then it might daisy chain, but it needs work.
Yeah.
And one of the things also that I attended to in my conference was utilizing AI in your work environment. And they caution it because sometimes AI does not spit out the truth.
Yep.
And there could be some core issues with using AI.
Right.
So.
Yeah, these aren't AI, this is an actual software.
Let us do some homework and come back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Director of Administration?
All right, so, biggest thing that happened this month was the election. It took up a lot of time. One takeaway from the election is it's super important for us to build an election manual that's kept in-house. Being the first year that I was the DOE all by myself, I didn't have any tangible of what we had done before. I was kind of flying blind and all being led by SDA trainings that are very general. Nothing that was tangible for me to say, okay, this is how the district handles that. So that is one of my goals for this month, is to put together an election manual that, whether it's me that does it in 2 years from now or someone new sitting in my chair, can take that manual out and have what happened here. I had a great set of election judges. They were very helpful. They were timely. It went really smoothly. But there were definitely some things from those trainings that I was like, oh, but we're so small, we don't need that. No, we need that. And I needed the time that they were saying to complete that. But I kind of didn't listen because I'm like, oh, I'm sending out 1,500 ballots. I'm not sending out 3,000 ballots. It's very time consuming, whether it's 1,500 ballots or 3,000 ballots. We have the biggest response that we've had in the last few years. And I think that's from us putting that information out there on a regular basis. We've been talking about the election for a while now. It wasn't something that was just dropped in people's laps and then it happened. So it was good, but an election manual is needed for here in-house. So we will work on that.
And I'm gonna interrupt here real quick. Shauna did, in my opinion, an outstanding job this year on the election. All deadlines were met. We did things that have been missed in the past, like the signs and stuff that should have been done that weren't being done in the past. Shauna did an outstanding job, and she kept the do's and the don'ts for the next one.
Yeah.
I agree with that, by the way. There was a lot of chatter about the election for weeks in advance, which was really excellent.
Yeah. It helps that I have Barb, and Barb never fails. I can give Barb a list and she just knocks it out. Barb was able to stuff 1,500 envelopes in the matter of just a few days, while I was able to focus on some of those other deadlines. Without Barb, we would have had to pay election judges to come in and stuff envelopes. So we were able to keep that cost at a minimum because Barb and I were able to knock some things out. And when the election judges got here, they just went to counting. So, other than that, it was a pretty standard month. Lots of phone calls this month concerning the election and that cancellation of recycling. There were a few days where it was Grand Central Station around here after the cancellation of recycling. Other than that, it was a pretty standard month other than the election, and we made it through, and I am glad it's over until 2 years from now. So I can take a breath. I learned a lot, and I will get a manual put together that people from here on out can use. It will be helpful. Yes, sir.
What does updating trash fobs mean?
So every time a sale of a property happens, or when someone loses a trash fob, they come in for a replacement. That's one system that it's still very archaic. 5 people have to touch one transfer before it's done. Barb or myself here, we updated in Cassell, we updated on a spreadsheet. Then it goes over to the maintenance shop where Daryl and one of his guys have to physically go to our gate, change it. So it's a very tedious and outdated process, but it's all we have right now. So we do the very best that we can, and we've got it better than it has been. Like, we've got processes down, but it's tedious and it's time consuming. But
It was a very selfish question. I just, what am I gonna do with my phone?
Yeah,
It takes so
Well,
much to do.
Daryl and I are looking at different avenues to update the gate, so.
yeah.
Because we do currently have an issue, it's not an issue yet, but it will become an issue if.
It really does take one of either Daryl or his guys standing at the gate with handfuls of key fobs and pressing in codes to either activate them or deactivate them. And that's all while people are coming in and out.
Honestly, it takes two people to do it down there at the gate. One to help kind of hold all the fobs and keep an eye on traffic, make sure the guy that's actually doing the number pushing, because he's not focusing on cars at the gate lifting up or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's only honestly a two-man job to do it down there. Unless we come in on a Sunday when nobody's using the trash, which we don't want to do.
A lot of man hours.
Yeah, not looking forward to it.
A couple of other things that I want to point out. We are at about 186 subscribers on the website. So every month we gain anywhere from 5 to 10. So we're still trying to get that out there. We've also had three lien releases this month. We have collected substantial amounts of money that have been outstanding for quite a bit of time. And that's to Barb being super diligent about sending friendly reminders out. Hey, we haven't forgot, you still owe us this lien. Some of them, one of them has been outstanding since I started here and probably since Barb started here as well. So he finally just sold the property. So we were able to collect about a $4,000 lien that we've had in place for years.
So we were getting involved with things like that? If it's been that long?
They don't. It's that lien stays with the property for its entitled, forever.
Yeah.
Where it gets a little difficult for us is some of those big amounts are on vacant property. We can't certify with the county if they don't have services. So those fees are just something that collect, and we have to, report in the audit, which is where some of those numbers are coming from. And without services to turn off or certify with the county and make it part of their tax obligation, people aren't paying those until they sell their property.
Yeah.
So, we could pay the attorney or a collection agency, but then it's money going out the door that's never coming back.
Yeah.
In most cases, we'll end up paying the lawyer more to collect.
Yeah.
We'll pay the lawyer $5 to collect $2.
Yeah. So, that's all I have, unless you guys have any more questions for me.
Nice job on the election.
A suggestion
Shauna.
Huh?
on notification subscribers is the popularity of the Facebook page and Nextdoor might be a good recruitment tool for that, because, I think the notifications are fantastic. Just having the stuff pop into my email or whatever is the best thing ever.
Yes. Yes.
And then that's part of the reason why when you see like a post and it has the Forest Lakes picture on it, we're attaching a link to the website in the hope people click on it, go to the website and see that subscribe button and subscribe for notifications that way.
With your permission, I might, I won't just do this, but with your permission, I might do a little stumping to get people to do it. Just tell them about it. And,
Absolutely.
You don't need permission for that. You're a board member.
well,
You can advertise your website all you want, sir.
Yeah, I put it out there before on.
You can advertise your website.
And don't know if anybody saw it.
And I will say, when one of you guys do that, There are a few, even if it's only 3, that's 3 more people than we had before one of you guys shared it.
Yeah.
So it does help.
Yeah.
It does.
And, something we forgot to do with my report, you didn't open it up for the public to ask any questions.
At the very beginning
Well,
of our portion of the meeting, because at the beginning of the
so,
meeting, you did.
at the beginning of the meeting, you asked for general public input on non-agenda items. As we were hitting agenda items, the board talks, or staff gives the presentation, or Jimmy Ray gives the presentation. Board discuss, and then before I forgot to mention this, before a motion and a vote's taken, they'll open it up for the public real quick, if they had any questions on that agenda item.
So we need to do that now.
If you want to open it up for the public to ask or make a statement on Shauna's report, if you would like, you don't have to. I would recommend it, just in case there was a question.
Are there any
I know she
questions
had one.
on the Director of Administration's report? From anybody online? No? Okay, then we'll move on to Director of Roads and Maintenance.
Oh, prepared. Out of order. So we continue normal operations, trash slash, continue dog parks, picking up around the lakes. Mowing, the soccer fields, had a pre-job meeting with wildland firefighters, Upper Pine Fire District, WAP, and CCFM regarding the wildfire mitigation fair. We also had another meeting with the contractors from Clear Network on how they're going to be performing their duties in the district. We had to build a frame for the new mag truck that we purchased this year. That was very time consuming. It was about, I put 2 weeks on here, and it was more kind of geared towards 3 weeks. It was pretty ironing out all the kinks. I worked with WAP and CCFM for scope of work for the entrance to get the grant for the mitigation project in the front. We had to do cleanup on the Bennett Myers ditch, which involves raking, limbing, removing fallen trees, which is also kind of time consuming. We rerouted all the wires in here in the boardroom, trying to hide everything. Some were just able to be hidden, unfortunately. I didn't design this building, someone else did, so that's what I got to say about that wire there. We met with the sheriffs for another break-in the rec center. They were able to remove several fingerprints and shoe prints this time. So hopefully they'll catch someone. I have not heard anything back. Corey, have you?
Not yet.
I meant to ask you about that today.
Any idea what they're doing in there? That's the building.
They're just breaking
It's
it.
mostly kids.
They're breaking in, doing damage, thinking they're cool. They're probably honestly smoking some pot in there.
They were. We
Drinking.
found backpacks with pot in it.
Okay, so
It's just turned into a hang-up spot for juveniles.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
delinquents, whatever you want to call them.
Graffiti all over the walls. They break the mirrors. They're just in there being destructive.
So we left some backpack, huh?
This was about 2 years ago. Yeah, there was a backpack with, there was no marijuana in it, but there was bongs and, yeah.
The previous break-in before last, the neighbors to the community center actually were able to get the cops there in time, and we caught them the first time, and they were ordered community, thank you, I was gonna say customer service. Community service, and we had the individual that was caught clean up the entire thing, and you know, it's went almost a month and a half.
Yep.
And this time they broke in and did some more damage. And waiting to hear if it's the same people. I'm assuming it's not the same people, because I'm pretty sure we would have found out by now. And it may not even be, truth be told, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Daryl. They may not even be residents of Forest Lakes. The guy that rolled his car over on Alpine last year wasn't a resident here. So we get outside visitors. Sorry.
So we continued and finally finished our culvert map assessment of the district. We have a total of 132 visible culverts. There are still some that I'm sure there should be culverts there, and I would hope that someone would have put a culvert there. We're just not able to find. It's probably due to them being plastic. It's going to take some digging around to find those. And if not, we'll have to install some there. Out of those 132, we have 10 culverts in critical condition, 51 culverts in good condition, and 71 with performance problems.
And those are the major culverts, right?
Yes.
Not like,
five.
driveway.
They're not driveway culverts, those
Yeah.
are district owned culverts for.
Yeah,
our
we don't
our
maintain
roads.
any resident culverts. Yeah, 5 of those are on the loop. 5 are off side roads, which don't get the general traffic and heavy traffic 90% of the time. So then we had John Deere come out, we calibrate and diagnose popping sound in the rear end of the grader. They also calibrated the circle gears and pivot gear or pivot sensor on the grader. Service T6. In addition to what they were talking about, so our keypad, the master code has been wiped from the keypad, so we no longer know the master code. So without that master code, we cannot program or
Activate.
activate fobs in that keypad pedestal. So I think there's 986 key fobs in that pedestal. So at some point in time, we're going to have to access that pedestal. At that time, we're probably going to lose all 986 of those key fobs. And we're going to do it on a Sunday, have them all ready. And then, sorry for any inconvenience, but you're going to have to come pick your key fob up at the office on that following Monday if your key fobs are not working.
And the caveat on that, we're probably gonna do extended office hours outside of our normal, so people can come in outside of hours to get their working hours to get their fobs.
And we can extend trash area or trash times too.
And we'll probably stay open on a late or have the office open on a Saturday where most people are taking their slash and trash down on a Saturday so they can swing in and get a new fob and go. So that's kind of what we're planning. We haven't solidified the plan yet. Once we solidify the plan, we will notify.
There are 2 pedestals. Which one
It's
is
going to be the first
pedestal.
the first one? Oh, well, you'll be seeing me then.
So, pedestal.
Both people.
Pedestal B has quite a bit of space on it, so we're gonna pre-program what we can onto pedestal B, and then as they're working on pedestal A, people can still be.
Yeah. There was a secondary programming for that so that never happened, but unfortunately that programming was not set up and placed in that thing. So yeah, next time we do it on A at least, not B, because I don't want to have to clear all those out. But at least on A, there we will have a secondary. There'll be a job action code, and then there'll be a master code, which the directors, me, I, Mark, and Corey, will know.
But the positive side of this is, we only had, I don't think we should have that many fobs issued out right now, so those that don't live in the district or own property in the district will lose their fob and stop abusing our trash site, because we don't have any way of knowing that at this particular moment, or those that have 3 or 4 fobs. that's only supposed to have one, so. There are some positives to this.
Yeah.
Other than
And the grader, the new grader,
yes, new grader.
and we don't have maintenance on it through the John Deere, or is that covered under maintenance?
No, we don't have any warranty because we're leasing and we got government pricing on the grader.
Oh,
We have no maintenance program, but seeing how it's a $485,000 piece of machinery, I'd rather have John Deere come assess it than our mechanic. All service trucks at this time, we're in good, all service trucks are in good full operation. Plow trucks still the same as last year. He's supposed to be changing that this week. The truck he mentioned earlier, I think it's hopefully just a sticking valve. I hope it's something assembled with that.
And it's a dump truck.
It's a dump truck.
The dump truck we're currently using to haul gravel when they're doing road maintenance.
Our most reliable dump truck.
you got that blue one?
Yeah.
And then they completed 3.95 miles of road, almost 4 miles of road. And like I said, we were down for about 3 weeks trying to build the mag truck, so pretty good. And a total of 190 yards of gravel was used. Cubic yards of gravel was used, sorry. 0 accidents.
Well, I noticed on the road that I was on, it's never been graded this way. They did do the grade like that, so it'll flow out. So there is a hump or whatever you guys call it.
Crown.
Yeah, so that's really nice, to see that they're starting to do that on some of the other roads that didn't have it before.
Yep, standard operating procedure.
Does anybody have any questions on roads and maintenance? Who's online? Nope, then we'll move on to Director of Water and Wastewater.
All right, in the month of April, the system used about 4,284,000 gallons of drinking water. And we treated 1,165 gallons of wastewater. You guys are new, so understanding that our sewer system doesn't encompass the same area that our water system does. That's why you see that discrepancy there. We're always going to have more water usage than we will have treated wastewater. So we had a pretty standard month. Completed all of our required compliance sampling, back keys, ammonia and BOD at the wastewater plant. Glad to report that our ammonia results are compliant for April. We saw that coming. That's a temperature related thing. Completed some locating for, I'm sure you guys may have seen the Clear Network trucks running around and stuff like that. Part of that project consists of them boring, and we have spent some time and we'll be spending much more time doing locates for them, i.e. trying to find sewer services and water mains and water services to the best of our ability so that we don't have them boring through there. We'll see how that goes. We've had other boring systems that are boring companies that created quite a bit of damage.
Miserable.
Yeah, and it's not a science for them, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking and put some anxiety on us in the water and wastewater department because of it. So we'll be spending quite a bit of time doing those locates. I mean, there can be several, 1,000 feet of locate request to do for just on San Moritz because they're going down both sides of the road. So you guys will be seeing some of that. If you haven't, you can drive right up there to San Moritz and see what the boring machine looks like, if you don't know what that looks like, and have a look at that. We did get a new motor and got it installed on one of the aero mixers in cell 1 that had failed in March. It has now been returned to service. I'm just now coming back from hip replacement surgery, so it's really been Matt and Tim over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, with me popping in, trying to do administrative stuff. And they've done a pretty good job of staying on top of things. We got the liner in Lagoon number 4 repaired. It ended up being about 300 lineal feet, 18 feet tall is what was required to replace the patch. That's been a project that's been, I think, on the books for around 4 to 5 years now. So we finally got that done. We did a bunch of what I would call preventive maintenance efforts this month. Cleaning the well houses and PRVs, checking the heaters inside those things, looking for operations, greasing of motors like the blowers, booster station motors around the subdivision and whatnot. Yeah, a lot of greasing and fluid changes and stuff like that. We did do a training on PFAS, which was really good for Matthew. He's our newest hire. And then we did kind of our big topic stuff revolves around the problems we're having with connectivity, which is inhibiting our SCADA system from functioning reliably. Still chasing down gremlins in that one. CenturyLink has a couple technicians out. We were getting between 70 and 80 drops a day from their DSL service. They came in and put in another DSL line, so we had 2 of those, and did some other work around the shop. It has helped. We're still losing that, which, when I say that, I mean, we might lose one line and then another line. And SCADA is losing packets, and that means it's sending out information and requests for information. That information is coming back from our booster stations, it's coming back from our tanks. It's going out to our water treatment plant, monitoring the chlorine and what's going on. So this information is passing back and forth, but there's gaps in it now. We haven't been able to solve that. We had an attempt to use Starlink from another system that was unsuccessful from the standpoint of being able to talk to SCADA. And so they thought it was a cable. We went through 2 days to get a new cable. They recently tried another Starlink. Guess that would have been on Tuesday. And we're still unsuccessful in creating a stable internet platform. That information is traveling through the internet. I guess I neglected to fill you in on that. So when those gaps occur, it's because of that internet process failure. There's potentially more than one gremlin in here, though, is what I'm kind of realizing. But the latest thing that they've done, this is Browns Hill, this is our automation engineering company. In Denver, they have set up a Starlink and some new componentry and have proved to themselves there that it works, and they're going to ship that whole packet down here. And they're going to put that in Friday morning and see if that solves our problem. So that's kind of where we're at with the connectivity and the SCADA thing. It's creating nuisance alarms. It's also creating a non-visibility. we may not know that something's happening. Uncomfortable for operators. The other thing that we have is our generator system. We thought we had it licked. It started 2 out of the last 3 weeks like it should have. And this Monday it did not start and created an AVR fault, which is an automatic voltage regulation fault. We thought we had that squared away with one of their technicians. I spent a ton of time trying to get somebody down here. What I felt was like an emergency situation, it still took close to 7 days to get a technician here. I have some buyer's remorse that we didn't go with a way more expensive generator that had a better service company that lives right down here in Farmington. I'm going through that process again, trying to get a technician here. And
Where do they come from?
the guy that's been working on ours kind of travels between Texas and Denver. So at any one time, he may be anywhere in between here and there. As far as an emergency service, I'm not sure that they have that. I don't know if they have enough technicians to pull that off. So we can run the generator by hand. The SCADA issue makes it so we don't know if that's happening now reliably. So we've got 2 things happening down there that we're working through. They're uncomfortable, but growing pains. So.
Did we have a contract with them? For an SLA for them?
We have, we do have a contract, but I don't know the extent of it right off the top of my head.
Yeah, the warranty thing. So the generators that we got have a control panel on them, an interface that is so new that the technician had never seen it before. He had to download operating plans for that, the instructions for that, and had thought that he had changed this AVR fault to something that wouldn't lock the generator out. But apparently that didn't occur or changed while he was gone. I don't know which. So our other 2 generators have that same componentry in them. So I think we might be guinea pigs for the technicians with the newest of the new generator stuff. I don't have a good answer for why the AVR fault is faulting out the generator, because I'm not the technician. So I'm trying to work through that and see where that ends up. Called them, 3 of them today, texted all 3 of them yesterday, not one response yet.
Does it need to be escalated up?
Probably, if we can figure out who to escalate it to. I was a squeaky wheel 3 weeks ago, and that's what got them there. And that's the road I'm on again.
Yeah, Mark and I have been talking about this in depth, and I think we're gonna try to find out who the regional manager, the manager of this place is, and I'm about to throw one hell of a Nipson fit.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be escalated if we're not getting the service that we're supposed to be getting.
Yeah, I don't know particularly if it's the amount of technicians they have, or if they have enough technicians and they're just not really that interested. I don't know. He does work for the oil field. He does work for, hospitals, so it's hard to say at this point. He goes where they tell them, or where they tell him to go. It's not like I can just call him up and he drives all the way from Amarillo up here. It's not like that, so.
Yeah.
But I was optimistic after those first 2 weeks. We can run things down there on that generator as long as we know that we need to, which has never been the case before. We've never had the opportunity to run the well field or the water treatment plant ever before in a power outage.
Yeah, so we're not dead in the water. It's just, it's not working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And getting the service ticket out here has been like pulling teeth.
Well, I think the biggest thing is documentation to that company, so we have some kind of a.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you started including, Paul or our legal counsel.
I considered it.
You haven't started it.
I haven't sent him an email with his name on it yet.
Well, you have 2 uninstalled, right?
Yes.
Any options for returning them?
You know, I haven't really gone down that road yet. I'm hoping that, the technician can adjust this fault so that if you know much about electronics, you know, or motors and such, controllers of motors, you might have a range in which this particular parameter operates, and sometimes it needs to be enlarged because you have something that's up here close to it. I feel like that's something that's probably happening. I mean, we had to adjust that parameter on well 4 whenever Brookline Electric redid the transformer down there because the voltage jumped up like 10 volts and it was tripping it out every time the well field started. We had to make that adjustment. Since then, it's been okay. You know, there's something telling that generator stop.
And
I don't know what it is.
another component to why we're having so much issues with this one down here is it's fighting with the LPA power grid, the solar panels that are pushing power in. So those 2 smaller ones that are sitting there, those 100% should just be set and play or set and plug in and no issues because they're not dealing with all the chaos that's happening down there.
You know, the Shaw Solar Agreement really threw a wrench into the way things work down there because it required extra meters and has created some issues for us. But it's a contract. I think it's a 30-year contract.
So for
The solar one?
Yeah.
Yes.
When did we get those generators?
They were delivered last November, I think.
like mid-November is when we got them.
Right before the snow.
So we only have a few months to get it resolved.
We'll see. You know, the other 2 might run just fine. Like Corey said, they're not in the middle of that kind of
Jenga puzzle.
yeah, electrical chaos. The resolution, you know, at this point, I think is just going to involve a technician getting to know what that system does and doesn't do and how to deal with this particular fault. Because we've already figured out how to go down, and when it faults out, we can start it by hand, but that requires a human to be there, which is not necessarily what we were looking for. Running the well field manually, you know, if it takes us 4 or 5 hours to get there, that's probably not a problem. We have tanks on the hill, you know, with 700,000 gallons of water sitting up there. We're not going to run out in 4 hours. Unless we have a large main break.
Yeah, don't say those words.
Might run out of 1 tank, but
And the schedule for those to be installed is June or July?
yeah, tentatively was June. The fellow that does the concrete pad work for it had a false start a couple weeks ago, and haven't seen him or heard from him since. We've been trying to deal with what's happening here. And so it's a bug, it's a gremlin of some sort that we gotta ferret out in both of the scenarios I've described.
And Clear Networks is working with you guys really well.
I haven't heard any complaints yet.
I haven't had any interaction with them really, other than them wanting refreshments on locates, because once you put that paint down and there's a lot of traffic and stuff, you know, you have to go back and refresh that. So,
I can't say it does look like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're potholing everything that we wanted to begin with, and they're keeping their stuff tidied down at the community center. So far they've been great to work with.
You guys, I thought you had to where you were supposed to see everything that they did before they covered it up.
well,
You're not going to see where they bore.
yeah, they're drilling through the ground and then
They're-
pulling in the
They're not supposed to move on to the next section until Daryl and Mark do their walkthrough of the area they were just at to make sure all the boxes have been checked. Like there's no open holes that were forgotten or roads back in place, ditches destroyed. So they're supposed to work on that section, and once they get the approval from the directors, then they can move on to the next section. Unlike how it was done with the power, and they made a mess everywhere.
And this guy running this Ford machine has a pretty good bit of experience. I talked with him the other day, and seems like he knows what he's doing, so hopefully we don't have no accidents.
Do you have anything else?
that should do it for me.
Gail, did you have a question?
Just one, when you're doing the locates and everything, are you archiving the information of where things are at? Like on a general data thing? For future? I know it's even more time consuming, but I just know I've heard this year after year that things are hard to find because nobody knew originally where they were.
So I can answer this for a moment, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We bought a GPS unit, and we actually have an engineer that does this for a living come down to train these guys how to use it. And so when these guys are out digging up valves for water leaks or a project or doing manhole manhole maintenance, and Daryl doing culverts, whatever, we're gonna GPS these, and they're all gonna end up on an electronic map.
It's just for years, you hear about it, and they're doing it and they can't find it, or somebody hit something, and it's like, I know it's time consuming for these guys to do it, that's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely needed.
Definitely.
Actually, that happens next week. Well, but this is just realize this is gonna be a project.
Oh, it's ongoing?
It's gonna take time to get the map built.
Years.
But once we start getting these points, we can start adding this information as we're collecting.
Well, it's been talked about
So-
for years, so yeah. It's good.
When we look at it, it'll have valves here, but it may not necessarily have all the water main, all the sewer manholes. It'll be a living map, if you will.
Moving the right direction anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked them for a quote to come out and like do our whole system, and it was an uncertain amount. I'm like, yeah, we can take it little by little until we get to a point where like, hey, it's affordable. You can finish it for us. But these guys still have to come out and expose the valves and the manholes because they're buried for maintenance purposes in the road.
Yeah, we think we know where there's a lot of stuff, and in my experience has been, we've been unable to find a lot of stuff. And so, once we do find something with this new setup, we'll be able to then put it on there. You know, so the goal is to get all our hydrants, all our meter pits, all our curb stops, all our manholes, all our PRVs, tanks, all that stuff, into this electronic map. I saw the map yesterday, Monday, I think it was. Was it Monday? Today?
Yeah, I remember I was on home first.
Okay.
It goes there.
But there's a lot going on.
Anesthesia fog.
But the map is built And when we start putting those data points into the map, like, let's say we find a valve. Where we put it may move it on that electronic map, so it moved from actually where we thought it was, down here on this side of the road to this side of the road. So those corrections will be starting to be made and those things will become real. And it's a process, just like everything else. And that was from one of last year's capital improvement projects. We barely bought at the end of the year.
Well, I know they were supposedly recording them by hand, and like you said, they were supposed to be on that side of the road, they ended up putting them over there, and they were writing them down and stuff. I just, you know.
And that's a lot of the
Really-
information that we gave to our engineer, and that's how kind of, we took what we had with the information, and kind of built this somewhat accurate map. And it's just gonna be better, it's gonna get better with time.
Okay, does anybody online have any questions on the phone? For Director of Water and Wastewater?
Yeah.
We'll move on to action and discussion agenda, the lawyer cover letter discussion.
So I requested, you guys kind of wanted some, proof that items were being sent to the lawyer. And so, Paul and I kind of sat down and talked about this a little bit, because we don't necessarily want to put, especially in the, county IGA, a bunch of signatures that aren't needed to be on there, because then you have to try to get all the signatures removed and revise the document when it's still in draft form. So we kind of came up with, doing this cover letter for contracts and stuff like that. It says, hey, this has been through legal review. It's got the date and Paul's signature of when he reviewed it. I feel this is sufficient to meet the needs of the board, showing that legal has reviewed it. I mean, kind of what you guys want on it.
So for the new board members, we were receiving contracts and different things, and we didn't know if the lawyer had looked at them, so that's what.
This will be added to
Yeah.
those.
It's an added step versus me being asked if we went through legal.
I will
Which
say,
all contracts go through legal before I even send it to the board.
I will say that, this is perfectly good. I saw it actually at my company just this past week, the company, and they had everybody who signed off on it. And I would maybe recommend that, it's up to you, but maybe recommend that the president sign off on this and that you sign off on it, saying that it has gone through. So that all the signatures are there, that it's been approved. I mean, that's open for discussion.
That is a board decision. I think that is totally unnecessary, in my opinion. This is honestly.
Fight.
Hi, Barb.
The reason I say that is I've just seen it at a corporation, and everybody who has reviewed that document signed off on it.
Well, then that would be the entire board that's reviewing that document. And you guys do that in a public forum. See what I'm saying? It's an unnecessary step.
Yeah, if you're presenting it,
For
you're bringing it to the board.
For the president and the board, I mean, ultimately, the president's gonna be signing the contract or IGA or legal document after the board reviewed it in a public session. That seems like we're creating more work than what's needed. I feel this is more work than what's needed, but I think it's a good compromise instead of you assuming the lawyer reviewed it. There's proof that the lawyer reviewed it. I don't see the need for the president and myself to be signing a cover letter saying that this document was reviewed.
No, that's fine. It was just a
Because,
suggestion because I
yeah.
haven't seen it in a corporation,
Because-
so.
well, most corporations, they're not having a public meeting.
Oh, yes, Mike, yeah.
Well, I'm not saying yours isn't. I'm saying most corporations don't have a public meeting, open forum where it's being discussed out loud and recorded in minutes and being put on our website and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I just think it's an unnecessary step.
Gail, did you have a question?
Just a statement, there would be times possibly, and they're rare, where a lawyer could approve something, but the board turns it down. So you don't necessarily want to sign something because of that, or have the management portion signed, because the board in fact could deny it.
Yeah,
And that's the power of the board, so, yeah, just as like.
Yeah.
Just kind of caveat what you're saying, like this IGA with the county, if you guys wanted something changed in here, Paul signed off on it, that he's approving of this document with the changes that he's made to it. Because before this even makes it to the packet, Paul and I go back and forth and there's red lines of, hey, I think this needs to be in there, or hey, what do you think about this? And then he'll send me the red line version. I go through it and I say, I think it's board ready. Then we take it to you guys, and you guys go, well, I don't like C and I don't like E. Can we change this? And then now we have to go back through the whole process.
Okay, does anybody have any comments?
I would say formally, does this also very directly state that the lawyer approves of it? It just says it's been reviewed.
What
does that mean? For the sake of the meeting, does that mean that the attorney has reviewed it and approved it as it is?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I don't think I still have the draft version. I think I overrid it. But he'll send me back with what he disagrees with. And there's a lot of times this is going back and forth between two parties before it's presented to the board. So,
and I get that. This is just, what does this say? This says he reviewed it, but does it mean reviewed it and it's good to go?
These documents would not come to the board unless legal was satisfied with the document.
Okay.
If you want me to put,
wording be different instead of.
we can,
I think.
I can have Paul put on there, he approved of this agreement, or but keep in mind, the more we add to Paul, the higher the bill gets.
Well, as opposed to saying, date reviewed, if this means, and for the sake of the minutes, if this means it's approved, ready to go, rubber stamp approval, then we can interpret all future such cover letters in the same way.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't need it reworded or anything. It's just.
And are we specifically just applying this to contracts?
Anything that
Like
is anything that's reviewed by the lawyer.
Right.
Or legal, I shouldn't say lawyer, legal counsel.
Based
Right.
on that guideline that we put together for whatever needs to be done for legal review.
Because I promise you, if it comes to stuff like this, I review it and I do my markup, and all these documents, and personnel policies, or anything that has any substantial amount of funds tied to it, or contractual obligations, not minor, like having an AC unit installed here, that doesn't need to go to where I can do that contract. the water line extension we're looking at. When we go out to bid and get all that back, when we get that contract, it is definitely gonna be reviewed by legal.
Do we have just standards of over a certain threshold of money or where just,
There,
if it's above this, it's just.
there is, and it's also
Yeah.
in, the board manual policy that I sent you out there, you'll see,
The last page.
Okay.
I think it's on the last page, isn't it?
oh, I thought we squeezed it in a little sooner than that. Well, page 13 is sticking to my mind, I could be wrong.
So we just kind of defined
What needs to go to lawyer and what doesn't need to go.
Yeah.
I have no issue doing this. To me, it just seems like it's an unnecessary step.
Next item on the agenda is count.
This good, or do we need to add to this?
I think it's good.
It's fine.
I have a question for you, Corey. So, like this document, this IGA, we've had the attorney review it. And is he sending you the approved document via email?
Yes,
So we have that as a point that he has reviewed it and approved it
yes,
in his email.
yes.
So I'm wondering if that would be an acceptable form of documentation for the rest of the board, if we have the email approved that's coming from the attorney saying, you know, here's the approved document, essentially. Do we need to have the additional, this document, I don't know if you can see it, signed by the attorney also? Because, okay,
I think that you don't want to have like the email because there's other items in the email that do not partake to this that don't need to be in that document. I think you're better off just having subject matter and approval that way, versus the whole email that's my thought.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think she'd want like the whole email put into like the board
You know,
packet.
the
Just
copy
have,
of it.
just having the track record of that email, because that is a court request item. I can't just delete those emails.
Right.
Well, I think what we had talked about was having this attached to the document, so it is living with that document. Because otherwise, somebody's gonna have to go try and find that email, right?
Just in the file.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in the, I guess in the file folder, because when we go to record this with the county, that's not going with it.
No, but it's with the document. So if somebody questioned it,
It's in the file.
it's in the file. It's with that document. Okay.
And that's here in the office.
Yeah.
And that's the direction of the board. If you deem it necessary, then that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we had talked about and why we.
I just wanted to get clarification that I wasn't adding to this, and this is what will suffice.
I feel like once it comes to us, like we made that check, I would think would be an assumed piece of, if it's gone through this process, it's gone through that. We checked that, I guess, as part of the process, but I don't see a need to add more, especially if it's not actually done.
yeah, I kind of agree with that because I feel like Corey's already done that process and that's what what his role is to do that process. And I guess I'm just kind of wondering if there's a reason that we need to have proof that he's done that process. That's kind of what it's feeling like to me, and I don't know if that's where you're coming from. I mean,
Well,
I do wonder if it's an extra step.
when we talked about it, it wasn't that Corey did it or, checks and balance for him. What we had talked about was all these documents that live within this building. So many have gone through who knows what from history. And there's nobody to say that the lawyer has ever approved anything. And when we discussed it, that was the premise behind all this. So somebody could come and go, yes, this has been approved, it's in the file, the lawyer looked at it. Right now, we have no way to know if the lawyer ever looked at any documents.
Yes and no. Case in point, when you asked me if it's been before legal, and I said yes, that's recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Now, I'm not saying that was a question that was asked previously. So, I mean,
But then you have to go back and try and find the minutes where it was approved.
yes.
So this is living with it. You don't have to go and find anything. It's right there with it.
Yeah, I'm not fighting that.
Yeah. So that was the premise behind that, Stephanie.
Okay.
And I mean, you know,
I'm just kind of,
And-
yeah, I
and-
guess if it's something that's super simple, that when the attorney sends this, for instance, this IGA back to Corey, it's with his final, he's like, this is good to go. You can take this to the board, Corey. I guess if it's not gonna cost us a bunch more to have him send us an additional document that says reviewed and approved by your attorney. I just kind of a little sticky wicket for me, and I'm not sure the best way to do it. I remember when we were talking about some other packages, like our references and stuff, that we do have the attorney that's reviewed it. I would think that maybe there's some way for him to just make it super easy to say, you know, this is reviewed and approved, but I just feel like the attorney's gonna be like, sure, I'll do it, but I'm gonna charge you $300 for just putting my signature on this. That's my concern.
Is there a cost
It's-
associated with this as it is?
There's a cost associated with everything we do with the lawyer, even a phone call cost.
Yeah,
Now, I do have a pretty good rapport with Paul, and if it's a quick 2-minute conversation, hey, I had this thought, I wanted to run it by you before I go down this rabbit hole. He doesn't typically charge me for those conversations. Stuff that requires like in-depth conversation, like we're talking about a contract or a potential litigation issue or
yeah, sorry, I meant
stuff like
this
that.
specific. Is there a cost?
There is a cost associated with this.
Yeah.
And what that cost is his time reviewing this document and him having his, and I can show you the invoice, him
Yes.
having his assistant type this up.
And I just had another thought, like, but just a quick other thought that I had is, so Corey, when you get this final document from the attorney, how would it be reasonable for you to put, something in the file that says, I attest on however it's written, but maybe a statement of attestation that the attorney approved on this date via email.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to have the attorney, we don't have to be paying him and having him do the extra step. We could do the extra step for just our filing purposes even, like approved by the attorney on such and such a date. And then it's in there. And then if we need to go back and look at your email, or anybody's email, it's in there. I mean, we're just talking about our internal records, right?
Yeah. And now that we have the server too, it's a lot easier to manage the information because it's not being deleted like a couple of predecessors before us. Or before me, not
Yeah.
us, me,
Or throw it in the trash.
or throwing in the trash.
Yeah, and
Either way is fine with me. All this is an extra step for legal review, which increases their time, which we end up paying.
I can't imagine that it would be much because they would probably have a template, they add the document name to it and send it back. I mean, that's probably 30 seconds worth of work there.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with that at all.
Yeah.
everything that, I'll just make everything that goes to the lawyer as things, so. You guys objected to this, right? We've already paid for this cover letter once, now we're paying for a new cover letter.
Why would we be paying for another cover letter?
Because he's making amendments and reviewing it and changing it again.
Those are probably not the norm. That'd probably be more of the exception. Maybe.
That could be the case.
And then if somebody does do an Open Records Act, Shauna's gotta go back and try and find the email from 2 years ago on a server where it's just in the file. That the lawyers looked at it and approved it.
Yeah. And
That's a lot of time to have to try and figure it out.
and again, I'm fine with this.
Well, I know, but there's discussion that, you know, maybe there should be a different way. So.
Both points are very valid. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, when this first came about, I really kind of ticked me off because it felt like, I wasn't being trusted to do my job. And then the more me and you talked about it outside this, I'm like, yeah, what you're saying makes absolute sense. So I'm on board for doing this. I just don't think we need to make it more complex than it needs to be.
Right.
And I get what Stephanie's saying is, we should need this because you should be able to trust who's sitting in this chair to be doing the job that you're paying me to do. Or in cases, we did kind of get boned on a couple of contracts that happened previous to us, i.e. the solar panels. Where he blatantly lied out his mouth to us.
I'm wondering if this is the best place to be having this discussion right now. Do you think we can talk about it, Julie, so that I can totally understand where you're coming from, and maybe with Corey?
Sure.
Is that possible?
You're my boss, you guys tell me. Yeah, no, we can sit down when you get back from work on, or whenever you guys would like, and discuss this more. But for now, moving forward, this is sufficient.
Yeah.
We can all agree.
Okay.
And then when we sit
Yes.
down, if the three of us come up
Yes.
with a different idea, then we'll bring it back to the board. Okay.
Let's move on to county IGA action.
So this has been back and forth between Paul, myself, and the county lawyers. And I think it's pretty well rounded. You guys find anything you disagree with, have questions on? Or are we good to put it to a vote? Or does it need some more tweaking?
Yes, I just had a question on, because I think this would change from the last map I had seen on it. Unless.
You're talking about where they're talking about doing the changeover?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Daryl and I spoke several times with the transportation director for the school district and our engineer, and we feel the changeover is gonna be a lot safer here than doing it so close to the highway. Give you that little buffer to get sorted out where you're coming in, because let's face it, people coming here way faster than they need to be, and then you got people trying to slow, make a left-hand turn. We're just trying to minimize the potential for accidents.
So the changeover would be where?
At the bus stop.
Okay.
So the bus stop would have to be blocked off and kind of moved a little bit where the bus is.
Well, we don't have to block it off. That's a request from the school district that we're willing to appease and give them like a bus lane, if you will. That's not a requirement. That's what the school asked for, and I'm willing to work with the school, and that's a reasonable accommodation to keep the bus and the kids safe.
And I think with the barricades, we can also get a half discount for the insurance.
Yeah.
I believe I carried covered
Yeah,
barricades.
Jersey barriers are on there.
And part of, with our, Vector Solutions,
Safety program.
our safety program that we're involved in, safety items, we get reimbursed up to 50% on that purchase. So to me, it was a win-win.
The media price was $2,100 for the barricade, so half of that.
The Jersey barrier is a concrete
It would be plastic.
freestanding, okay.
Yes, sir,
it's-
exactly what you're thinking.
They'd be freestanding and staked to the ground. The plastic ones are a lot easier to maneuver and move if we ever needed to move them versus having to bring a piece of equipment over to pick up the concrete ones. And
Understood.
a good example, I don't know if you've ever been to the block parties down in Bayfield and saw those blue plastic ones that they have. One is you fill them up correctly and not like we did. If you fill them all, you fill them full of water or you can fill them full of sand, but you fill them all the way to the top and you're not moving it. They're 700, 800 pounds. And they'll slow or stop a vehicle if it. Especially
Considering
these
the
newer
school
ones.
bus expects you to stop and that little red sign comes out, yeah, that sounds very effective.
So that was the accommodation the school district asked. I believe it to be a reasonable accommodation and I'm willing to play ball. Jeff's a good dude. And we've had multiple conversations about it.
This
And-
won't
and-
be,
Sorry to interrupt, but having that conversation with the school district, we actually, Forest Lakes was invited to some of their planning meetings with like some of the stuff that they're working on as a collaborative, like trying to improve safety at bus stops and stuff like that. So I've been attending a few of those school district meetings. So we're building relationships with our neighbors, essentially, the ones that are taking care of our kids.
I would like to make a motion, but before I make the motion, I'm gonna say, this is an enormous project and it's way beyond people who have not been involved directly in it. Me. To go back and second guess every little step of the way. I have seen this going on for a very long time, so with faith and respect for the people who worked so hard on this, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the entrance paving IGA with the county. The name is Jim Moore.
This is Julie, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That was a sign.
Your stress can go away, Daryl. Next is the SGM's traffic plan for entrance paving project.
Yep, so what, I don't have it from me, I don't need it. What that, I don't need it, bro. What that is they're going to put a PE stamp on what signage is needed, line striping plans, and everything that goes with paving a new street. That way it's stamped by PE. It's defensible in court versus I'm a TCS and I draw something up and I think this is what it is, but I'm not a certified traffic engineer. So this is pretty much a CYA. The county's offered to review the plans for us for free because they have their own traffic engineers. They're just not willing to do all the engineering. This is part of our having some skin in the game. It's just over $5,000 if I remember correctly.
$5,020. This is an engineering plan. They're gonna tell us what to do, not do any of it. They're not putting up the signs, they're telling us what signs to put.
They're not doing any of that. They're just telling us what we need to do.
The design, okay.
The county is gonna do the line striping for us. They're doing the paving for us, and they said they would help make signs for us, so we don't have to go buy them.
And they're doing a few of the signs, right? Correct me. if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, they're gonna give us some signs. Yeah. So. it
And
really
these are
is-
permanent signs.
Yes, they will be
They're the
permanent.
permanent signage, right? Okay.
Yes.
I made the
Have
last
we
one.
talked to anybody like Branson Roadworks about creating the signs? They
I'm
do
not-
like traffic control.
We haven't talked to Branson Roadworks, no. Honestly, it would be cheaper for us to let the county make them, because they have this stuff in a
Okay.
big warehouse. I'm not saying we
Okay.
can't go get quotes, if that's what you'd like me to do, we can go price out quotes for traffic signs.
No, that's fine. I'm fine with what the county's got. I mean, they do that all the time. And you're probably right. We could either do that or, see if CDOT or the state will let us use their employees who they have incarcerated, but let's use what the county has. I'm fine with that. I just wanted to ask the question.
I have a question about this. So this is a fee estimate. But where are the deliverables of what they're giving us? Design, production, coordination?
You should.
I mean, I don't see any.
I know I should have kept this off myself.
You want to do it?
Elevator barns there if you want to go.
So.
I didn't get that.
This wasn't,
No.
should be in
Send
fact.
me the packet.
I
Yeah,
thought that was.
I
That's,
don't think it's answering.
it was in my package, I think.
so,
Yeah, is that the SGM document, Corey?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
Well, just
it was in
understand
the
that
package,
maybe
in the original package.
Like the last 5 pages or something. Is all.
the general scope is to provide traffic signage striping plan. Okay, I think I didn't put those two together and I was like, I didn't know where they were going with it. So that's just my issue. So this fee estimate here belongs up to that. Okay, I just didn't put it together.
Okay, well, I mean, we can ask SGM to kind of revise their coach to a point, but I don't think they're gonna be reluctant to do that for us. I think ask them to be a little more detailed.
they are professionally liable
Yes.
for what they do. So in other words, they're doing an estimate here and they're telling us that they take responsibility for the design.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, SGM is the district's engineer. We have a contract with SGM to do all of our engineering.
So what they'll do then is draw up the design and then you and Daryl review it and how's it all work?
Honestly, I was just gonna send it to the county because they're offering to review it, and they have another engineer that's checking another engineer. I mean, I can review it. I understand what I'm doing. I'm very familiar with traffic code. As Bill is too, we can review it. But we have the county is offering to review that for us for free.
They're reviewing their plan, what SGM's.
Yes.
And it's tied to the county's right of way, which that makes sense to me to have the county review and approve it because we're gonna be putting signing in their roadway as well, right?
Then we got two engineers saying that it's a good plan, and if something were to come up, I'd like, you guys approved it.
Yeah, I just didn't know how all this worked. What, they were coming to you and bringing it all and, okay.
And am I safe in assuming as well that, let's say on Service Road, they will most likely have 2 giant signs that say do not enter. And those signs will be to a standard specification accepted by CDOT or whatever.
It'll be set by MUTCD. But the plan for this whole traffic change is we're gonna have BMS signs, we're gonna have, Lieutenant Webb said we can have a sheriff posted down here for the first little bit until people get. With any traffic pattern change, there's all kinds of flashing lights, flags, the whole. You can't just change the traffic pattern and say, good luck.
Do we have to pay the sheriff to come down here and do that? No, they've agreed to do that.
And town of Bayfield's agreed to loan me their BMS signs.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I believe we kind of talked about implementing the traffic pattern change before even the actual work, correct? To get people used to
I will find out more of.
after SGM.
Well, not after SGM, but after the county, because the county still, the board of commissioners still got to put their signature on this as well. And that's gonna be part of that meeting is, hey, we want you to do this first, and that's a condition of this.
No, we're not striking, that would probably not be a very good.
Well, and then the whole construction process is gonna be
Yeah,
chaotic.
that makes sense.
So,
Anybody else want to make a motion, or do I have to?
I make a motion to approve the SGM traffic plan for this paving project.
That was Lynn Beer.
This is Stephanie. Go.
go ahead, Steph.
This is Stephanie. I'll second the motion to approve the SGM estimate.
All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay, moving on to who will attend the SDA regional workshop action.
Yeah, so the Durango SDA Regional Workshop, which is highly recommended and encouraged for all board members, even new and old, is June 20th, 2025, from 8 to 12:30. We understand that life happens and you can't always make it. Michael will not be in the state, so he will not be attending this. Stephanie, would you like to attend this?
What are the dates again?
June 20th, it's a Friday, from 8 AM to 12:30 PM.
Hold on, I'm looking at my calendar real quick.
Sean, you can put me down.
I'm busy that day already.
There are other events that'll come up.
I'm good. I've got it on my calendar already for that Friday.
I think the next closest one is in Salida, which is a 3-hour drive, so you have to, get up a little early, drive there and drive back.
That's fine.
But I do really,
When they go over all the stuff, that you can, there's an online SBA and you sign up for that, become a member. And the manual online as well. You can also get a hard copy. And they pretty much just go over rules and regs.
It's pretty informative. It's actually a big helping.
It's on my calendar. I have a curveball coming at me that I can't predict at the moment, but if I can possibly be there, I will.
and we can get refunded if something comes up, right?
I don't remember.
Well, if we can, it's only $40. I mean, we'll make sure.
Yeah, I was about to say we can send.
We're gonna, if their schedule allows, Daryl Marker also
That's a
gonna
good idea.
attend it. There is a big one in Keystone that I'm gonna attend that one again. And I'm allowed a +1, so if Michael or you or whoever doesn't attend this one wants to go to the big one, it's just not as catered to the board members as it is the districts, because they go over a lot of classes of it. What do you guys, look at doing management practices this way or budget things this way and
It's
they
not
touch a
deep
little bit.
meeting, it's deeper.
Yeah. And we have a mandatory meeting that the district has to be at. And in order to attend the mandatory meeting, you have to buy the whole conference. Which I think is cheesy, but I don't make the rules.
Okay, so Shauna, you got everybody that's gonna attend.
I have Julie, Stephanie, Jim Moore, Daryl, Mark, and myself.
Next on the agenda is results of SMG's structural assessment of the community center.
Yeah, from what I'm reading, it sounds like we are just better off abandoning all hope on rehabbing this. They did say, we can get a contractor's opinion to come out and at least give us a quote to see which one's gonna be cheaper. According to this, sounds like the rehab's gonna be cheap or more expensive than starting from scratch. I really don't wanna abandon all hope on the community center. I wanna see it thrive and I wanna get us an actual place where we can have the public come in and be more comfortable than sitting in here for public meetings. Whether we build a new building, make it a little smaller than that, so we still have a community center. You talked about making a gazebo. Really just kind of want to know the direction of the board on this before I keep wasting time on trying to prepare something that's never gonna come to fruition.
Go with that on here too.
One thing that I took from that report was that they suggested not even rebuilding in the same spot because of the infill for the pool.
Yep.
So that's, I mean, that's a big deal too. I mean, and that would impact whether we rehabilitated it or tried to or built new. That sounds like that's a problem either way. Is that how everybody else interpreted that, or?
Yeah, right. My vote, based on what they have said, is to get quotes on getting it removed.
I'm wondering with that, I mean, if we did have to have it removed, I wonder if there's a way we could possibly get creative and use some of the parts that they said were still good, to build a gazebo or something that they're the bearing, but could maybe be creative with the triangular beams that are on the top of the roof. Just a thought, maybe something worth looking at.
Okay, you kind of broke up a little bit on some of that. So if I understand you correctly, trying to salvage materials to incorporate somewhere else, in a sense.
That's what I'm thinking. That's just a thought.
You do the demolition.
I mean, it is kind of it's a unique building because of that roof structure.
Yeah.
Save some money.
Just get the vandals to come in.
This sounds more like a fun project.
Yeah. Team building.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
On top of everything else you have.
Huh?
On top of everything else you have.
Well, it would be a fun, little team building.
We'll let the board members operate the excavator.
It'll be your Christmas bonus.
Okay, so.
I do think we should, if that's being abandoned, we need to start looking into alternatives. Because I agree, I think we need a better space than this to house. To encourage the public to try to be more involved.
I 100% agree with that. I think we've done about everything we can do to make this conference room work for what it is.
Well, we have had Chief Evans give us their conference room. It's not here in Forest Lakes, but down at the fire department in Bayfield. Set up conference room, speaks 50 people, and in the past, he has said that we could use that for meetings.
And you're not, I don't believe you're gonna get people to drive down
Yeah.
there. I mean, we don't, outside of Gill,
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it worth looking into seeing if someone might potentially want to buy that? Turn it into a restaurant or?
you know. You don't wanna give up that prime piece of property.
I'm not saying you have to sell the property.
I'm not interested in being a landlord.
Being at least.
Sure, on that.
There's a, it gets very sticky. And you get, yeah, we can talk about that another day. I don't think that's a viable solution. Cause even if they try to turn that into a restaurant, you're not gonna get a restaurant to come in here and wanna rehab that because the county's gonna make them fix it. It's not ADA compliant, it's not any of that, and most major corporations or a mom and pop shop ain't gonna be able to afford $200,000 worth of repairs in the hopes that they're gonna thrive in the small community that doesn't get. If it was more closer to the road and we were catching people going away and back, I could see it, but where it's stationed at now, I don't.
I don't think the residents can want it there.
What about opening it up to the public, just shooting out a blast saying, this is the situation. Does anybody have any ideas? Maybe we could put food trucks up there and have a cool seating area with some, covered area where the building is now. Just throwing out that idea. I don't know, just maybe we should open it up to our members.
And Joe's mentioned this before in previous meetings too, about, replacing it with a nice sized gazebo that would provide some shade. And actually kind of potentially move the gazebo a little closer to the playground area, because there's really no shade over there. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
the concrete could probably just be resurfaced for something like that. Potentially, I don't know. And then you would just have posts and a pavilion, but. Anyway, do we need to take action on this?
I just need direction, so from my understanding, I'm just going out for demolition quotes. I'm not going out for the compare fixing it versus starting fresh.
My vote is for demolition, based on what he has said.
I think I'm aligned with that as well.
I don't need more songs. They're just giving me guidance.
If you're asking for quotes, is it possible to do a two-stage quote, demolition alone versus demolition and construction of a new building, or is the new building off the table?
You can't necessarily go to, getting a quote with a new building without having something for them to bid on. So we would have to spend money on engineering of, or at least not engineering, but an architect saying this is what we want.
All right, we'll draw that.
Right now, we don't have funds for something like that. To build a building, because this was $264,000.
We don't have funds to cash it. We could go for another loan. Honestly, we need better trucks than we really need to. Before we look at building a whole brand new building, I think it would be better suited for us to do an office expansion and blow this room out a little bit like it was originally supposed to be, and actually make it to where we can come in here and sit and not be crowded up against the wall.
We also have to think about our attendance on Zoom. We don't get people on Zoom, and do we really want to make expense for people, build this out and then have nobody show up?
I don't know though, they used to be at the rec center, it would really full.
Yeah, we didn't.
And it was standing room only at the back.
And this is the same.
That was at 1:00 in the afternoon. Yeah.
This is the same problem that most municipalities have. They're not gonna come to the meeting if there's nothing on this agenda that they care about.
It's usually a good sign if you don't have a big turnout.
When, we first started talking about the road pavement, this room was packed and we had, geez.
I think like 25 on Zoom at one meeting about the.
When we first started, we had people sitting out in the hallway. 'Cause, I mean, this wasn't really designed very well. When we get to something like people care about where it comes to rates or public hearings, people are gonna show up. It may not be 50, it may not be 15, what, we need to do everything we can to accommodate bringing the public in. In my opinion.
Do you have what you need for moving forward on the bids?
Sounds like I'm going for quotes to, wipe it off the face of the earth.
Since you put it that way, is it time for a motion to adjourn?
I will be the one that's running it. I would ask for public input if you wanted public input on the matter.
Yeah, is there any public input on the, community center discussion?
That could be a public, but,
Nothing more from me.
they got rid of the ski lodge, they actually gave it to Upper Pine burn. That brought the community out, you could feel the heat from a long ways away. I don't know if that would be an option with that as close to the trees as it is, but as far as demolition goes, it might be
I don't know what the gas line is right there.
an option to burn.
Like a training.
Yeah, they burned that thing down and did various different training. I don't know if it could be.
The concrete strip.
I was about to say it's torn up.
Oh, we don't know what it looks like that before.
You talking about the foundation?
The heat,
The
yeah, the heat.
heat will mess it up.
The heat will screw up the concrete. Essentially, it'll turn it back to powder pretty much.
Really?
That's.
If it gets hot enough.
It's a good thought, if you don't want to use concrete. It is a good thought. So, you know.
So, if there's no further conversation, we can.
Oh, yes. We're going to adjourn the meeting. It is 8:54 PM.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right.